Good evening. I'm Ted Santos. I'm your host. And tonight, we are doing YouTube and Chill. And you guys know how we do it, YouTube and Chill. We talk about relationships and the intimacy of relationships. And I love taking on those politically incorrect topics that get avoided by most people. And tonight, yes, hey Lando, good to see you in the house. Tonight is definitely going to be a classic. We're going to talk about those ladies who love to dance on the pole and all this empowerment that they have from being strippers. So we're going to get into that tonight. And so I'm curious is even before we get to that, the question is, we live in a country that the pandemic has shown us another side of reality, or the possibility of a reality. So we're going to get into that and the effects of the pandemic and how women make choices and how they completely conflict with how they say they want to be treated. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about sex work. And we're on YouTube and Chill. So we're going to kind of sit back and, I love talking about sex on Friday. This time we're going to hang out in this world of sex workers, the impact on them, the impact on society, on children, all these things that as a nation, we do a great job of avoiding the reality of certain situations. And we sort of pretend like nothing's happening and sweep it under the rug. So I ask that you all gather around. And we're going to talk about, will sex work be the fate of most women in the United States? And this pandemic has shown us something. I'm not sure if too many people are really talking about it. I'm sure it's not on the eyewitness news. So as you come into this, give a thumbs up, smash that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to me already, smash that bell so you can get notifications and share this video. I dropped my Cash App and PayPal, and I'm going to do like I often like to do, is share my screen. And I'd like you all to hear straight out the horse's mouth what some of the sex workers are saying about their profession. But I just really think it's interesting that the pandemic has it shown us what a lot of women are ultimately made of. Has the pandemic just been an excuse for a lot of women to do what they really want to do? And we live in this society of how do they call this? Toxic masculinity, Me Too, don't objectify women. So I have some thoughts about this. I wrote some of them out. So guys, as you come in, share this video, because I always like not just to give what my thoughts are and facts and statistics. I like it when we can hear straight from people who are in these situations, and they can tell us straight out of their mouths, and we can hear different perspectives. So we're going to deal with the reality of how many women make choices. So what do guys do when things get rough? How do we have a society that you call equal we are to treat women as our equals? But when things get rough, we make very different choices. And we even have a vice president of the United States who made some very interesting choices around career and sex. So do we just accept that? Are we rewarding women for doing the very thing that they ask men not to do, which is to look at women sexually, especially when it comes to the profession, our, business life? So how many women and how many professions have used sex as a way to survive in this world? Are there consequences? And when women have to pay the consequences for that, are they then screaming victim that men are just abusing them and taking advantage of them and forcing them, controlling them, objectifying them? We've got a discrepancy. So some of my thoughts on this were, when I thought about, will sex work be the fate of most women in the US? So some of the things that as a nation we have to really look out for, and the US is not really good at dealing with industries that become obsolete. A lot of the Scandinavian countries, when technology or outsourcing or even cheap labor, and we have three. So when an industry becomes obsolete, what do? They retrain people, they reskill them, whether it's technology or a skill, a tradesman, trades, carpentry, plumbing, electrician. I mean, a long time ago, before there were refrigerators, there was this whole ice industry where they used to cut out these large blocks of ice, and people bought that, and that's how they were able to keep food cold from spoiling. If anything needed to be cooled down, chilled, refrigerated, there was a whole industry around cutting ice and making ice making factories. And with refrigeration, that became obsolete. So the guy who could just cut ice all day had to find new skills. Maybe he had to work on an assembly line, or he had to learn how to build motors for a refrigerator, or door hinges, or assemble a refrigerator on an assembly line. And he would have to be retrained from just cutting ice slabs. Or cutting them straight out of a lake. There were a lot of different ways that industry of refrigerating foods has gone through a huge evolution. There are some good books out there that talk about the evolution of industries and how certain industries became obsolete. So just think about how industries become obsolete. We have robotics and assembly lines. You have people who come to the United States and are willing to work for lower wages. You have industries that get outsourced. I mean, hell, even parts of accounting services or even legal services get outsourced to other countries while they do it for cheaper. So what happens to these people? People have to learn new skills, or they have to become very focused on a niche. So what do women do? When the pressure gets on, this pandemic has shown us exactly what they do when things get rough. About 900,000 women left the workforce because of the pandemic. Part of them didn't want to go back to work because they felt it was dangerous. And meanwhile, men went back to work. Someone had to be the sanitation department. They still had to collect your trash. Doctors, nurses were not going to work. I know people who work in that profession, and there were nurses who refused to go in. So they didn't want to face the danger, yet men still went out there and drilled oil and collected your trash. They went on the New York Stock Exchange. They still worked. The males, the doctors still went in. So when things get dangerous, they went back to work. And a lot of these women who wouldn't go in still had to make money. So these are the same women who said, I don't need a man. Yet they looked to men to supplement their lack of income. You know, I know the government gave stimulus packages, there was unemployment, but a lot of women went to sex work, and we don't want to say that. So my thoughts were like this: when there is an economic hiccup, married women have a better chance of survival. Even if her husband gets laid off, married couples are better at saving. So they're more prepared for these kinds of emergencies, what we call black swans, or unexpected events. And there's always a second person when you're married who's able to bring in extra income. When women are single, they have no safety net. They're less likely to save. 77% of consumer purchases are made by women. So women make money and they spend it. They don't save it as well as men do, or especially not as well as married couples. So this latest global pandemic has proved the challenge that women face, and we're pretending that it's not there. You know, you've heard me talk about the responsibility of capital. You know, money isn't just for going out being a consumer. Lots of men create businesses. They take care of their families. They make sure their spouse and children are well educated. So with this pandemic, more than 900,000 women left the workforce, and most of them were single mothers. So not only did you have women who refused to go back because they felt it was dangerous, you had single mothers who had to deal with the fact that schools were closed and they had young children. Daycare centers were closed. So these women couldn't even work, even if they wanted to. They couldn't leave their young children home. I think there were some stories of women who did that, and they lost their children to child protective services. But yet the single woman has her kids. Unemployment and stimulus packages usually not enough to pay the bills, to eat, mortgage, utilities, car notes, student loans. So while men go out and hustle, women use their bodies as a last resort. And in the 21st century, there are more ways than ever for women to engage in sex work. You have still the woman who can go out and just boldly walk the street. You have strip clubs. We have more of those than ever. And of course, when women go into strip clubs, a lot of them make their money from prostitution by literally having sex. And now we have the internet, which gives us OnlyFans. So there are a lot of women who jumped on to OnlyFans. And with all the free porn that's out there, I don't comprehend. I have a difficult time comprehend why so many men have taken subscriptions on OnlyFans. It's happened. I'm assuming at some point men are going to kind of get burnt out with that and not even care anymore. And that market will dry up, and maybe there'll be some next new thing. But the point I'm making, and look, not every woman is going to make a living on OnlyFans, but some of these women are making a lot of money, several thousands of dollars a month. But there are a lot of women who don't do that. So, and the strip clubs closed. So now that means OnlyFans was saturated, because men didn't go to their traditional strip clubs. And some guys may have been even nervous about taking your traditional streetwalker. So OnlyFans became the new frontier of sex workers. So when the going got tough, that's where a lot of women, they jumped straight to OnlyFans. So what I want to do, let's hear, I want to do a screen share, and let's hear from the women, from their perspective, what it's like to be a stripper. So I looked through a few videos, and they're all kind of coming from a different perspective. So I'm going to do a screen share. And these may be women that just normally do this on a consistent livelihood. So just for the record, fair use, I'm only using this as under the Fair Use Act as a form of education. I'm doing a critique on this, and I'm doing this so that we can have an added perspective to some of the social challenges that we are dealing with as a nation. So under Section 107 of Copyright Act of 1976, I'm doing this under the Fair Use Act.
Playboy. I wanted to Yunj came with Playboy. And Yunj came with Playboy. I wanted to get business advice. So I came to the place where all of the top hustlers work.
In my opinion, I feel like pussy is the most powerful thing. Most men do the things they do so they could get pussy.
How much do you make a night?
An average day is like a $500 day, and a good day is $1,000 day. A great day is $2,000.
So what did this woman just say? So we're told as men, never objectify women.
So they could get pussy.
How much do you make a night?
An average day.
So they could do the things they do. Powerful thing. Most powerful thing. Pussy is the most powerful. Pussy is the most powerful thing.
Pussy's the most powerful thing. I guess a lot of men do believe in the power of pussy, and lots of women do too. But if pussy's the most powerful thing and that's what you offer, I mean, does that make you an object? I mean, is this how men lose fortunes?
Men do the things they do so they could get pussy.
How much do you make a night?
An average day is like a $500 day, and a good day is $1,000 day. A great day is $2,000.
800 to 900. My best was 1,500.
So if guys are so maybe these women have some legitimate comments in saying that there's power in pussy because they're making $1,500, $800, $900 in a night for guys to be able to smell pussy. And I assume on is this the result of having sex, or is it just purely dancing?
I've made $2,500 to $5,000 a night.
Now, $2,500 to $5,000, is that having sex? See, this is what I was saying. A lot of times strippers are prostitutes, but let's hear her.
What do you think is your best asset at this job?
My ass. That's everybody's
Awesome.
best asset.
Does clapping your ass work more than talking, or are they about the same?
I think like your energy is everything. So here, like guys notice you because your presence on stage or you have a fat ass.
I think looks is definitely what's going to open the door for you. You want to have personality to back that up. There's many pretty girls that you can compete with. You may be beautiful, but then the next girl is just as pretty as you, or maybe even prettier.
What's your negotiation technique? Like, how do you get everyone to give you the cash?
Do you want me to show you? Should I show her?
Show us.
I think every customer is different. You have to shut up and listen.
Right.
Most girls like to run their mouth, but if you shut up, you'll make a lot more money. I promise you.
So you kind of like listen to what they say and what they
Definitely.
want.
If you listen, they'll tell you what they want. So it comes a lot easier. Some guys.
I think this is interesting because these women are not even what you would call very attractive. But I look, there are lots of women who are very attractive and they went the traditional, if they wanted to make a living, they went the traditional route of getting an education, and maybe they're a lawyer or engineer. They did an internship. I think it's interesting how there are women who went to law school, and you have two women. One woman is a stripper, and the other woman does internships and doesn't make as much money, except the woman who's doing the internship is creating a network. She's getting knowledge, experience, and she's developing working hands-on working with attorneys, so that when she finishes law school and gets the job, the stripper complains that it's racism or gender discrimination, when in fact the other women or the guys did an internship and worked their butts off and took a delayed gratification while developing themselves, their skills. So this has become a very easy way for women to earn money, and this pandemic has shown us a lot.
Guys pay me just to talk to them. I've gotten $60 just for giving
Literally
advice.
talking to them.
They're like, "Thanks for listening to me. Here's some money."
Wow.
I don't really have to negotiate. I just twerk.
Do you have another job, or is this your other job?
Well, I'm actually trying to save up to open my own strip club. So
Wow.
this is like my only thing right now.
So
yeah.
you would consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
Do you have another job outside of this?
No,
No. This is the only
this
job
is
that
the
you
only
do.
thing that I do.
Awesome.
I actually still have a job. I'm an office worker by day, and I do this at night.
Which job earns you more money, the office job or
This
club?
job, or else I wouldn't be.
Do you consider yourself a feminist?
I think every stripper should.
I'm all about women power. I'm all about like women standing up for themselves and doing what they have to do to support themselves.
But isn't feminism saying that women shouldn't be objectified? Aren't men condemned for objectifying women and feminists? I mean, someone help me with the leap here. Perhaps I'm just not smart enough to understand. I mean, is this what feminism condones now? Is this the 21st century of feminism in the Me Too, or is this post Me Too? Not that stripping is new.
I believe women have rights. Like, we're smart. There's no reason we're not equal to men.
Do any of the guys ever fall in love with you when they come?
So this pandemic has shown when things get rough, women are not equal to men. They use their bodies. As that woman said, the power of pussy. We're equal. Don't objectify me.
Oh, of course.
They do.
Of course, yeah.
How do you kind of push that away?
You have to remind them, first of all, that they're married. Second of all, that this is all a fantasy. I mean, that's really all you can do. Like,
Right.
if you can't realize that, this isn't what you're supposed to have, then I can't really help you. You need therapy.
What would you tell girls who want to be a dancer? What's your advice to them?
I would tell them to have like a backup plan, because this isn't forever.
Just have fun, keep it genuine and just stay in your lane.
And that was an important one. This is not forever. So I wonder how many women are prepared for that.
Definitely need to be mentally strong, physically strong. There's girls that come in here thinking that because they're pretty that they can stay and they can make money and they can do whatever they want. But in our reality, this takes physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength. If you can't come in here and really separate your priorities and handle your business as a woman, then you won't make it.
So there you have it. Whether you have your looks, your personality, the way you talk, or how you shake your ass, whatever works for you, just go with it. I'm Yunj Kim with Playboy.
So that's the stripper's perspective. So being a stripper has women, what do they call it? Women empowerment. Being a stripper is empowering. And perhaps that's what we've been selling to little girls. Hey, red pill. Yep, I'm going to drop it. Oh, man. I forgot all about my Instagram live stream. I forgot about that. Let me drop this. What's going on, Chaos for you? Hey, yeah, chaos for you, right? It's easy money. So, and that's a concern because when you look at consumer purchases, women make 77% of consumer purchases. So they're spending a lot of money. So when you think of capital, right? When men think of capital, there's some responsibility that comes with capital. And it doesn't seem women want that responsibility. Hey guys, I'm a little late to bringing Instagram onto this one. We're talking about, will sex work be the fate of most women in the US? We're talking about how lots of women, when things get rough, this pandemic, over 900,000 women left the workforce because of the pandemic. And lots of them, you went to sex work. In sex work, you know, we all know the ladies of the night, the prostitutes on the street corner. And when you go to Atlantic City or Las Vegas, you see the prostitutes in there working the clubs, you know, in the bars. And you have strippers, and many strippers, whether they want to be honest about this or not, a lot of strippers are prostitutes. I just showed you guys a clip where you had several strippers talked about how much money they could make, you know, $800, $900, $1,500. You had one woman say she made $2,500 to $5,000 in a night. I'm willing to bet a percentage of that $5,000 came from having sex. So with this pandemic, a lot of the strip clubs closed down. Some guys became nervous about prostitutes with COVID-19. So women ran to OnlyFans. And I find it so interesting when the woman on this video asked if they were feminists, they said yes, and women should have women power, and they talked about power of pussy, and usually feminists don't want to be objectified. They scream "me too" if you look at them wrong. And yet these women go up on stage to be literal objects, to be given money just for their bodies. And I'm gonna play another video where this woman interestingly talks about relationships. But, you know, my thoughts are this: women don't want to be objectified, yet they take on professions that make them objects. They stand on a stage and present themselves as objects and want to be given money for their bodies. Like the woman in the video said, "What's your asset?" And she said, "My ass." You know, that's what it is for all of us. Some of those women had large breasts, so people like that. And those women are basically dancing objects. But here's a thought. What would happen, and maybe this is not if they're making sex dolls, they're making robots that can have sex with you. What will happen if they make robots with an absolute perfect body who can dance, pole dance? They're clearly going to have more physical strength than a human woman. What happens when we make robots that look completely human and they become your strippers? What are the strippers going to do? Because they're not developing skills out there. I guess the smart ones, if they have money, they'll buy the robots and open up a strip club. But usually it's men who make those kinds of investments. Women don't usually make those kinds of investments with capital. Men, like I said, they invest in their families, their children, their spouse. They invest in businesses. They create jobs for the community. Women go shopping.
Ace. Hey, salute, Ted. How's it going, man?
All right, hold on. Let me do this one super
All
chat.
right. All right, no.
And thanks a lot, Fudd, man. We have plenty of volunteers that will hit the ground running, Ted. Sad state of America. I love the channel, by the way. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the super chat, man. Go ahead, man. Let me shut up and let you talk. I know you said you had some things you wanted to say about this.
Yeah. So yeah, like like with this scenario stuff, it just it seems like this pandemic and stuff, it really screwed up a lot of men in our society and stuff. I'm just like, because of like COVID and stuff, and like and also just men are just scared to like just hold their like just urges, and I noticed that like I work like I well like I shadow a bunch of PAs and stuff in my free time this year and stuff, and one of the PAs, she has a like OnlyFans account, and that shows just no matter like just what like background like you're in and stuff. I mean, like, it could be medical background, and like just economic background, business background. You can still like have that like immature like just mindset of just manipulating just men and stuff. So yeah, that like specific physician like assistant, she's a good looking just Asian lady and stuff, and I managed to get her social media. But eventually when I followed her on like just Instagram and stuff, I saw that she had like a OnlyFans account. So that's just when I knew that women can just get away like like with so many things in our society, but the problem is men don't notice the signs. So yeah.
So interesting you bring that up. There are a few women who have had or have OnlyFans accounts, and
Okay.
they're like you said, physician assistants.
Yeah.
I just pulled up one high school teacher fired after students find her OnlyFans account.
Oh my god.
She has rather healthy breasts there. She looks
Oh,
like a Latina. But her
yeah.
found. I mean, all right. Not to get distracted, but there are lots of teachers having sex with their students anyway. So we just
Yeah, there is actually. Yeah.
we.
I'm not surprised though.
Yep. So yeah, and this woman is 26 year. Yep, she's Latina.
Okay, I'm not surprised though.
26-year-old Latina teacher goes by Denise on OnlyFans, working as a teacher. Denise wasn't making enough money to meet her expenses, so she decided the best option for a second job to create an OnlyFans account. So
Oh, that's
So,
crazy.
yep. So that that this is so there was a time this is so I have like interesting thoughts around this. Women said that they wanted to have their own money because if they marry a man, he could leave or divorce. Yet, over 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and I don't know if that's always been the case. Are we just starting to keep those statistics? Divorce rate shot up after 1968 when they created a no-fault divorce. Before that, you had to prove fault, and if you were at fault as a woman, you were penalized for that. But once they lifted and said no fault divorce, women just ran to the courthouse and actually filed tons of divorces. So the way a woman would survive in the world would be to marry a man, and he went out and worked and he took care of the family, and the wife made sure that they were uh, healthy, with food, with other care. The woman that's what nurturing was about, to make sure your family was well cared for and healthy. And of course, you wanted to make sure your husband was healthy because he brought in, the income. But now that women work, it's like they don't see they still can be fired. So you can be fired from your marriage through a divorce or the man leaves. Uh, but if you go to work and you're fired, or you're just not making enough, here's this teacher and the woman you were talking about,
Yeah.
they just become sex workers.
Yeah, I mean, like, with this, like, just specified um job and stuff, like, she's making around like, like 140K a year and stuff on like average, and then like, like just her like having the like, just OnlyFans account, just shows that, just women are like, just never satisfied, despite their like, just income and stuff. I mean, I've seen like, just Instagram, malls and stuff. Like, I remember, just coming like across like an account and stuff, and there was this medical student, she was into like fitness and stuff, and and like, the sad thing is, she has a, just OnlyFans account too, and yeah, I mean, it's just sad to see, I mean, like even like doctors can have, just OnlyFans account, even physicians can, even lawyers, teachers, etc. So yeah, I mean, it's sad to see, but I mean, I feel like, just a lot of, just men should be more like aware and not like, just fall into the sex trap, like, because sometimes, just having too much of a like urgent stuff can really like destroy a man, because I've seen like, um men in our society, like they go to the Vegas to go to the brothels and the massage parlors, but the problem is, I feel like, on that show, I mean, it's just like, you know, men are like, just like, just feminine now, and just, too thirsty in my opinion though. So yeah.
So what here's my thought. So right, so men
Yeah.
are being too thirsty, except women are saying, well, we can make our own money and we don't need a man. Right? So a man goes out and makes lots of money and he thinks, wow, I can take care of a wife and children, and my
Yeah.
wife doesn't need the pressure of working. And a woman says, well, I don't need you because I have my own money. Um, you have to think about the long term implications of that. If men are willing to, like someone said in the chat, women make money and only invest in themselves, and men invest in the community. Their family, businesses, creating jobs. Um, Velcro. Are you Velcro? Velcro, not Velcro. shoot, I forget the name of this company. Um, there's a company that makes like waterproof gloves and jackets, and
Waterproof gloves.
yeah. Like
Oh, is it
skiing,
is it
skiing. Go ahead. Is it what?
is it like Columbia or no? Like I know that there's like a brand called Columbia stuff, you know, just where they make the waterproof gloves and stuff.
I forget. This guy made these. I don't know if it was in the '70s, but he hit a tough spot, and he had 11 employees, and he had enough money to keep his wife and family, his
Yeah.
house. He had money for materials, but he couldn't pay for office, and he couldn't pay for the salaries of his 11 or 12 people. So he made a deal and said, "Here's the deal. My house is big. Uh, I can't pay you. I still want you to work here. So give
Yeah.
up your home and come live with me, and my wife will cook for everyone." And he did that, and everyone,
Oh,
all the employees took that on. But see, but that's a guy willing to look out for the best interest of all in the community, and he built that company. God, I hate that. I don't know.
from
But he built the company up. I think it ended up doing billions of dollars.
yeah. Well, that should. Well, I mean, like, and just regarding that, I mean, I think there's like a similar situation and stuff with like just Bill and Melinda Gates and stuff. It just seems like I feel like like with the Bill Gates situation, I feel like his like just his like just urges kind of like just end him. He got like stuck with the wrong just woman and stuff. Like like with Bill Gates and stuff. I noticed that like I read like a article and stuff, and allegedly Bill Gates was saying that he never had the chemistry just with his just wife anymore and stuff over like the span of marriage and stuff. So it's just like, yeah, that shows like women are never satisfied, and that like as men, like we need to be more careful and stuff of like who we like who we want to date, and like just who we want to marry and stuff. Because it can't like just happen to anybody. I mean, like it happened just Bill Gates. I mean, the guy's a billionaire. I mean, and it happened to him. And also with Jeff Bezos too, also
Right.
the Amazon guru. And like that shows just women are never like just women want to like just be in control of the relationship. But the problem is that shows like masculinity on the female side. And as like men and stuff, we need to like just be the man in the relationship, instead of just sitting back and just not doing anything. Because I see it like just happen like just all the time in life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's just a problem with manhood in the U.S. And by the way, the name of the company is Gore-Tex that I was trying to remember. I think he was founded in Delaware.
Vortex.
Yeah, Gore-Tex. What's going on, SW? Yeah, Gore-Tex. He had to have his first 11 employees come live at his house, but that's just an example of how a man will take care of community, right? He's going to do what's in the best interest of everyone. He didn't shut down. He kept going. Um, and
Yeah.
I don't think women are thinking in the same way like that. So capital comes with that kind of responsibility. Capital is not there to just sort of gorge yourself with all the pleasures of life. It's there to be invested in yourself, your community, and do things that are in the best of everyone. And we're not teaching women to do that. They're not understanding the consequences of not thinking that way. So long term, we're not on the greatest path. But here's the question, and that's what the show is about. So this pandemic showed 900 women leave the workforce. This pandemic has shown that things can come out of nowhere, right? And you have to factor in. We have outsourcing, we have technology. One day, I'm willing to bet they're going to build robots who look very human. You won't know the difference, and they'll have the absolute perfect body, and they'll be strippers. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Someone made a movie called shoot, it starts with an A. Forget it. But anyway, in the movie, they literally had robots that were designed only for prostitution, only for sex. And I don't know what year this was in the future. It wasn't that far in the future. So
Oh, is it Avatar? Oh, is it Avatar, right?
no, not Avatar.
Oh, okay.
Avatar, that it had avatars, but this movie was real, real people, but the actors.
Who was the actor in the movie? What was it?
Good question.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of the movie too, because I know like just what you're. Andromeda. Chaos said.
No,
I don't. Oh man.
actually, it was a really good movie. The movie was about the first robot they built, and the robot was learning from humans, and then the robot started learning and teaching, and then the robot became so smart that humans couldn't understand it, so they destroyed it.
Oh, was it Apo Ali Poto? Was I can't pronounce this shit. Was it the one?
Yeah, you're on a path. It starts with an A. It's not Attica, but it's at oh shoot.
This is like a jigsaw puzzle, man. I just forget about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Think of it, but they literally had robots that were prostitutes. No, not Andromeda. No. At a shoot.
Wait, I'm about to search it out. um, man, I don't know. I don't even know. This is too. Yeah. Man, this is tough, man. I cannot think like.
Yeah.
Was it the AI like artificial like intelligence written? I think it's directed by
you got cut off or something. Oh yeah, you got cut off. Okay. Right. Yeah, Chaos, you would have come to me after the stream. Right. I had to look up Gore-Tex, but yeah. So here's my question. The pandemic showed us something. There are economic challenges that can happen, right? So we saw the bubble that happened in like 2007 that happened leading up to 2007, 2008. And jobs are lost. We have outsourcing, we have low-paying jobs, we have technology. And what I was getting at and saying about robots that can become strippers, there are lots of robotics and technology that will make many jobs obsolete. So what are women going to do? Up to now, a lot of men have been getting hit by technology, outsourcing, low wages, and even hiring women is hiring lower wages. People only think about low wages for people coming across the border and willing to pick strawberries and do other things. But women are low wage also. Hell, they take 60% more sick leave. There are all lots of reasons why women get paid low wages. They won't put in the hours that men do. Yeah, they're having sex at work, but what I'm really asking is not about women having sex at work. Um, if we get hit by something that negatively impacts us economically, like the pandemic, or we continue to get hit by technology, robotics, outsourcing, is that going to push most women into sex work? Because women have already said they didn't need us and they can have their own money. So is that a future that no one's really factoring in? What do you think, Red Pill Ghost? You're on mute. If you're talking, you're on. We can't hear you. Okay.
Oh, can you hear me right now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. I had to fix my like just internet, just router and stuff, because it was kind of like like just on and off. Yeah.
Okay. So did you hear my question?
Oh, I didn't hear it. Oh, I didn't hear it because I fell out and stuff trying to
Yeah. So I was just asking. So is it with more? So if we have another event like a pandemic, and it doesn't have to be a pandemic. We had the real estate bubble. We have economic bubbles. They happen, and you combine it with technology making jobs obsolete, lower paid wages, outsourcing, robotics, and the reason I was talking about robots was that in that movie is because they had robots as prostitutes. So what happens when they make these robots, these women who you can't tell are robots, and they have the absolute perfect bodies. You have 10 different models, 10
Okay.
different styles of bodies, and every strip club has each of the 10 bodies. That means they're going to put women out, human women out of business. So what are women going to do? What are they going to do? Are they just going to look at sex work and prostitution? I mean, is the future of women in the workforce getting hit by things that are unexpected? Are a lot of women going to end up as sex workers? Because listen to the amount of women you talk about on OnlyFans.
I mean, like in the oh man, this. Well, I mean, like it seems like yeah. I mean, the future is gonna be like tough for young just women and stuff, just because jobs are getting more saturated and stuff, and like they require they require like to like you and stuff to have at least in a master's and specified jobs and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like as the like future like a holds and stuff, women these days will probably just going to sex work and stuff. I'm just like because of their like their high like ego and stuff, because sometimes just being too cocky can actually just backfire on you, and like I mean like having like a man- manipulative just mindset can also just backfire on you like in the future. So yeah, I mean situations for women in the future unlike this are gonna look bad now, and they probably have to go like to like third world countries and just promote themselves to like just rich billionaires and stuff. I mean, I've seen yeah. Yeah, I mean like especially on like just Mexico I mean like especially on like Thailand and stuff, because I know just some girls, just move to Thailand and stuff to like just just become a sex worker and also just marry like up in the social class, so they like just manipulate the wealthier like Thai businessman and stuff, and they like just they managed to just get like the income from them and like just later divorce them. So yeah, it's sad, but
So
it's true.
so
Yeah.
maybe what may end up happening is completely against feminist philosophies. What could happen is lots of women accept the men having multiple women.
Yeah,
They accept that as a way of life.
that's polygamy, right? Like like the one with like just
Yeah, well,
multiple wives and stuff.
yeah. What it's polygamy is only accepted in a few states in the U.S., Utah being one.
I know the Mormons do it and stuff. Especially
In
yeah.
right, they're in Utah, but I think there are other states that recognize it for religious purposes. Because a lot of people come from the Middle East and they may have
Oh
more than
yeah,
one wife. So some
definitely.
states will recognize it, but not a lot of states don't. So um, is so if women are jumping to OnlyFans, at some point OnlyFans will be saturated, right? And
I've been saying that. Yeah, it's gonna be saturated. Yeah.
at some point it's already been saturated because there are a lot of women who are not making as much money on OnlyFans as they tell you.
Yeah.
Same with strippers. You know,
Strippers.
well, no, people think that you're those women. I just showed a screen of women who one woman said she makes 2,500 a night, as much as $5,000
Oh my god.
in a night. Right,
That's my college tuition right there on a yearly basis. Oh god damn, that's
right,
crazy.
right.
5 grand? Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm gonna share another video. So this
Alright. Yeah.
has some interesting. She's gonna give some facts that strippers go through that maybe some people don't know about. So let's see what she has to say.
What's up, JV Navy? It's your Captain Jasmine Black, and I'm back with another video. Today's video is the top 5 saddest things strippers have to deal with. And we're going to go ahead and get straight into the video with my number one thing, insecurities. Feeling unworthy, feeling like men won't date you, feeling like men treat you differently, all of that. And I've been through all those things. Feeling unattractive, of course, we work with a lot of beautiful women. It's a very competitive environment. So, of course, you're going to have your times where your self-esteem is down, but you're also going to have your times where your self-esteem is high. You're going to feel beautiful some nights, and then some nights you're going to be looking at the other girl's body, and you're going to be like, wow, if only I looked like her. So that can definitely play a part in your insecurities. A man saying that he won't date dancers can also play a part in your insecurities. I've been told that before. Guys would be like, yeah, I would date you, or yeah, you are cute, but I don't know if I could deal with telling my family what you do. I actually went through that in my relationship with my son's father. His family knew that I was a dancer, and I did feel like that maybe my occupation caused them to treat me different and look at me differently throughout the time of our relationship.
So, it's interesting that a woman will go into this occupation understanding that the world views that it's a sex work. We're in constant, that puts us in constant conflict. Don't objectify women, even if they have an occupation objectifying themselves. So not everyone looks favorably on that, especially for women who are looking for guys who are quality men. They don't understand the decision making of a quality man and being with a woman and how it makes his decision making process look. So, hey, and by the way, the name of that movie is Automata.
Automata? Okay.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I wrote it in the chat.
Alright, I see. Copy pasted.
So yeah, that could play a part as well. It can also give you a feeling of unworthiness, like maybe you don't deserve love because you're a dancer, or maybe you won't have it because you're a dancer, which is all untrue. You're still a human being. You're still a woman. You're still a female. You're still a part of this world. You deserve love like anybody else. And I don't believe that your occupation should determine whether you should be in a relationship or not, or if you can be in a relationship or not. And the way that men treat you, I do think that men carry this perception about dancers that we are just loose, we freaky, we just want to do it. They treat us like we're not a part of the female race. They treat us like we a special type of species or something. Like, no, we're still females. When we get off work, we still go to the grocery store, we still take care of our kids, we still go home. Like, we are regular, living, walking people. So we deserve love, we deserve dates, we deserve to be treated the same way as you would treat a girl that doesn't work in our occupation.
Oh my god. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I can't believe it. It's like, I can't believe strippers have that just mindset of just just thinking like just delusional. It's just like, oh my god. Oh man,
See,
that's crazy.
but you see why long term this could be a problem, because you know, the feminist said you can have it all, right? You can have your career, your husband, your children. You can make lots of money and spend time with your family, and you can do it all. And so she's kind of saying that, like, you should be able to do it all. I should be able to be a stripper. I should be able to deal with. You should be able to promote my body just for for sexual purposes. And she's going to talk about sex in a few minutes. But I should be able to do all of these, and like she just said, you should see me like a regular woman who doesn't do this. Treat me just like women who don't do
Oh my god.
with an understanding that there's a stigma attached to this. So when other women hear this, other women will start parroting, just like a parrot. Yeah, you shouldn't see me like that. Don't look at me as an object just because I'm out there with no clothes on, selling my power of pussy.
So this can all play a part in your insecurity. Someone not taking you serious, someone trying to hold your job against you. All of that can play a part in being insecure. So that's one of the biggest things that dancers deal with is insecurities. Saddest thing, number 2, it's hard for you to get into a relationship, and it's hard for you to look at men the same after.
Now, just listen to what she's saying. Now, she's going to say hard to look at men with this occupation, yet she doesn't want men to look at her differently. Like, this is going to sound insanely hypocritical.
You've been in this type of environment because, I've done bachelor parties where the bachelor is trying to like find somebody to have sex with on his last night before his marriage. I've seen guys come into the club that are completely married, that are happy. Well, they act like they're happy. They say they're happy, but they're in there, looking for somebody to take home. So this can definitely change your outlook on men, because you see all types of men come in there that are doing things they don't have no business doing. So once you get in your relationship, it just kind of, you already know the game. You already know how they play. And you may take it out on your own relationship and think that he's capable or doing the same thing.
So that's interesting. So when men see that there's strippers who go to bachelor parties and will have sex to whoever pays for it, why wouldn't a man be thinking the same? Like, she's saying you shouldn't see me that way, yet she's watching other men do things and saying now she's going to take it out on her man, even though he hasn't done this. Like, she's putting herself in a situation and can't see that there are two sides to it.
Yeah. I mean, like, just with this type of just woman and stuff, like the strippers slash the prostitutes and stuff. It's just like, no man's gonna just look at her the same way and stuff. It's just like, like, I mean, like, you're like, just clearly like a low value on just woman and stuff, and like, it's just like, how do I say this? But men are not gonna date you or like just marry you, because I noticed that with women like who are the strippers and stuff, they usually just marry the criminals, the felons, the no lives and stuff. So yeah, they're so just full of shit. Sometimes I can't listen to I can't listen. Like they're so full of shit sometimes. Like I'm just like just no man wants to date you, just period. Just because of your of the of the the job you're doing and stuff. It's just just very low value, and just a lot of guys are gonna just look down upon it. I know, but it's true. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna date a stripper, just marry a stripper, man. Like that's gonna just make me just look bad, and also like my family's gonna just look down at me for that shit. I mean that happen. I'm not gonna do that. So yeah,
Well, there's also the risk. Maybe your clients,
yeah,
your colleagues. There's someone who's had sex with her, or she was
God.
willing to do tricks just for a few bucks, and now you married her. So people are
Yeah,
looking at her as, was that the smartest decision you could have made? You went out there just to say, I have my own money, and made yourself an object, and you can't prove that you haven't had sex with a whole bunch of men for money. So
mm,
why should a man take a risk on you?
yeah. I noticed that with athletes and stuff. They tend to just make the worst choices and stuff, and they end up just just planting the seed, over a stripper and stuff, and then it's just sad. It's just all these athletes and stuff where just just getting paid just millions of dollars on and stuff. It's just I don't it's just your life choices are just crap. They're just horrible. I don't know I know that there's some NBA players and stuff that are just married to us a stripper and stuff, and they have four or five kids wearing stuff, and it's just man, that's just a bad idea. At the just end of the day, she's probably gonna leave you if you don't have that just money anymore, so yeah, man,
Well,
I don't
and there's well, just what I want to acknowledge both Lando and Chaos for you. They talk about, but like
yeah,
throw all the negatives on men.
yeah,
Like he said, they try to flip the negatives into positive just to save face. So,
yeah, it's true.
and Lando, it's like you're a stripper, right? Do your job, provide your service to mind your business, right?
Dude,
Uh,
they think they're high value on just women and stuff. The problem is they're not. They're just at the bottom of of the the totem pole and stuff. In my opinion, if you're a stripper or a prostitute, hey, you're just at the bottom. In my opinion, though, I'm not trying to just be judgmental and stuff, but it's true though. It's true. You're at the bottom of our society pretty much in the U.S. In my opinion, though. That's how I see it. Just from a just open eye though. Yeah.
and who knows what sexually transmitted disease she has, right? The emotional trauma that goes on, drugs, alcohol, the kind of trauma and fights that those women are not very nice to one another. They're really cutthroat out there. So,
Yeah.
so
They
they,
love felons too. They love felons too. The strippers love felons. I'm not gonna lie. They do actually.
well, and so who chooses men who are at the bottom? Women who are at the bottom.
That's true.
So Let's see what else she has to say.
Hard to get into relationships. It has been hard getting into relationships because you want to know who's who. You want to know who's serious about you and who's not. It's also hard to get into a relationship because guys already have this perception about you in their head. So yeah, in the beginning of your relationship with somebody, it's like they understand your job and it's just a job and they get it. But the more they start to like you, they start putting pressure on you about quitting your job. They start putting pressure on you about your cell phone. They start putting pressure on you, period, because now they're having trust issues and they really can't deal with your occupation like they said they could. So
amazing how women come with this. They just can't deal with a strong, independent. They can't deal with me being a whore. Sex worker. You just can't deal with it. No, you don't want that. I mean, even they're probably even having problems with the felons. Don't want that.
Relationships can be hard for a dancer. I think the best way, I had that situation too with my son's father. I was a dancer when he met me, and then when we got together, the pressure started being applied. At first, it was like, "Oh, you dance? That's not a big deal. It's just a job." And then it turned into, "Okay, let me see your phone." Then it turned into, "Well, you came in at this time. It's time to get off." Like it just, the pressure just started to being applied to me, and I could tell that he really couldn't deal with my occupation like he said he could. So that can be, detrimental on your relationship. I really don't even know what to do about that because I'm such a free spirit and I kind of like to do what I want. So I'm the type of person that if you can accept what I'm doing right now, or if you're not trying to change my situation, or you don't have the power to change my situation, I don't really want to hear your mouth. I will break up with you before I allow you to like force me out of my job or force me out of what I'm doing that's working for me to make you feel comfortable. So if you ain't got the coins to change my situation, the status thing number 3, lack of knowledge. A lot of dancers have a lack of knowledge. Like they have lack of knowledge on how to operate their credit score. They have a lack of knowledge of banking. They have a lack of knowledge of a lot of things. And I really wish that would change. I hope that I come up with a project that can change those things. But this is sometimes when you're in this fast-paced environment, you forget about the whole outside world. Like dancers, yeah, you make all this money, and then you go to buy a house, and they be like, "Where's your W-2s from the past 2 years? Where is your bank statements?" Like they forget all about that. What's your credit score like? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, she's being nice when she says they forget all about it. They basically don't have a clue what's going on. Some woman wrote a book about this, and she said, not all the strippers are women who've been raped or molested. A lot of them, of course, will come out of single mother households.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But these are women are. I mean, I hate to say it. There's some women out there who depend on their looks so much that they don't develop any other abilities in life, right? So
That's so true.
they don't know about credit reports and W-2s and what it's going to take to get a mortgage. They're just clueless. It's not that she's being nice and saying they forget about it. They just don't know. I'm not saying they're stupid. They're ignorant on a lot of things, and they're in an occupation where their ignorance benefits others, right? So, you have a nice body and you think that's all you have to have. And life can be cruel to those women when they age out of the industry and don't have sufficient savings.
Yeah, it's just like, where's your personality at? Like, like that body's not gonna take just, like you through just life and stuff, I mean, like a lot of these, strippers, I mean, they're like, just broken, like, just inside, in my opinion. They like haven't like, just developed the characteristic traits and stuff, like of an adult, or like instead like they're like just immature. Like I mean like they're like immaturity like just level and stuff is like it's like at a high school level probably like and like and yeah, I mean a lot of these prostitutes, just hookers, the strippers, I mean, they're all like, just broken inside. They're like all toxic and they probably went through some, just shitty times with like, men and stuff. So that's why that's why
Are
yeah.
you still in the car?
No, 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 it's just the background and stuff. I guess my neighbor's car, just went off and stuff, but
I don't want
yeah,
any sirens chasing you, man.
no, no, yeah, but I was saying stuff that a lot of these just women are like either like just raised and stuff and like just like just horrible households like either just both their parents and stuff are divorced or they're drug dealers or they were just forced to just go into like just the sex industry and stuff. So yeah, I know like a girl from my just high school and stuff, and then like her parents did like they did not support her like just at all. So eventually like she moved and she works at a strip club in the Texas area now. So yeah, it's sad. But the problem is a lot of these just women, they're all manipulated by like just other people, and they're and
Right. Right.
and like just at the end of the day, it's just their fault for like just picking that just um low level profession and stuff. So yeah.
In developing that's really dangerous because you're not going to be strippers forever. So what
Yeah.
develop, what happens, what's life after. So let's see what else she has to say.
There is definitely a huge crisis on lack of knowledge in the strip club community. If dancers knew all the things that they were supposed to know, they would be killing the game, okay?
Well, at least she's admitting they don't know, but somehow killing the game. All right, so let's hear.
Like killing it. The best advice that I can give my dancers friends is to do your taxes. Definitely do your taxes and put money in the bank. Okay, put money in the bank so you can just have it on paper. Always keep a bank account so they can keep some type of tracking of your expenses and the fact that you have some type of income. What else? And take care of your credit score. And we make enough money to pay things off our credit. And don't forget to take care of like your real life responsibilities. If that makes sense. Thing number 4 is becoming sexually unattached. Okay. Also, I suffer with that. Being in a sexual environment like the ones we work in, when you do get with somebody that's special or you do get with someone you like, that is like the last thing on your mind. Like, I know for me it is. It's not even, it doesn't even turn me on to even get right into that. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it because I expect something different from you because I have to deal with this from every single guy in the club every weekend. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm with somebody that I really like, I don't want sex to be the first thing we talk about or the first priority or even the main priority. Let's go do something else. Let's go walk in the park. Let's go try different foods. Let's go do wine tasting or something. Like, I just want to relax with you. I just want to be with you. I don't really feel
Man.
have to get straight into sexual things.
I hear you. What are your thoughts?
She's gonna die alone. Just because it just like it sounds like her life is just miserable and stuff, and that she hates and just opening up to herself while with just inside just relationships and stuff. So yeah, I mean like in her scenario and stuff, as she gets just older and stuff, like I feel like like she's gonna be like just more lonely, and like just also like she's gonna like be those like just like single mothers, like what I'm saying by that.
Yeah, she'll. Yeah,
Yeah,
the I deal with sex all the time. I don't want to deal with that, but
yeah,
she'll end up withholding sex from a guy because she made. I mean, no one's forcing her to be a stripper. See, this is
man.
there was a decades ago. It would be a shame for a woman to go out and be a stripper. You shame your family, especially your father. But I guess with so many fatherless homes, you're not shaming your father, and there are women who actually say, "Go get that money." I was in a chat one time, and I was saying to the women, "Look," because she was bragging, "Oh, I'm in law school and I can be a stripper." I said, "No, you're behind. As you want to be a lawyer." I said, "There's a girl who's going to go do an internship and make less money than you, and she's developing experience, she's making contacts, and when she finishes law school, she's going to have an advantage on you." I said, "You're going to come out with bragging about having more money, but you're going to be behind her in terms of the legal profession, and you won't have the network she has." And then you'll say, "Well, it's racism or it's gender." It's like, no, you went to a strip club and dealt with people who have poor communication skills. They fight, they argue, they're alcoholics, they're drug addicts. Um, they become lesbians, and lesbians are the most abusive relationships in the U.S.
Oh yeah.
45% divorce rate amongst lesbians. So here you are in this environment that's taking you backwards, and this other girl goes and does an internship, is not making the money you're making in the internship, but she's developing all kinds of things that you're now behind. So some women were having a hard time understanding that, but a couple of did understand and said, he's right. You're losing in the long run.
Yeah.
So they engage in activities that you know they can't see how, as this woman's talking about sex is so important in a relationship, and if you're treating it as, "I'm unattached," because you're emotionally traumatized from too much sex, she might as well start buying her cats now, huh?
Her cats, yeah, definitely. Wow.
Interesting. So we're almost done. Let's see what else she has to say.
I don't know. I'm just unattached because I worked in such a sexual fast environment. Like I'd rather just do something different in a different order. So I have become kind of unattached, and that's not one of the first things I really look forward to doing when I get somebody. Saddest thing number 5, being taken advantage of by family and friends. Like, when you are the breadwinner or the person with consistent money coming in, and yeah, you definitely leave room to be taken advantage of. Everybody's calling you for favors. Everybody's calling you for what they need. Yeah, and it can cause people to kind of take pure advantage of you. Kind of take care of you first. Do your thing. Do what you need to do for yourself first, and then whatever you have left, or whatever you can do, or whatever you can spare, definitely help people. I would never tell anybody not to help anybody, but do not rob yourself to help other people. Being a dancer can definitely leave room to be taken advantage of. And, sometimes we allow it because we believe that, oh, I'll make it again. I'll make it again. I'll make it again. That's every dancer's like mental rotation. I'll make it again. I'll make it again. I'll make it again. But that's not always for certain. And that's not the point. The whole point is to add to, not keep staying at the same level. So if you make 500 and you give away 450, you back at $50, and you make another 400, you back at 450. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to be at 4, 8, 12, 16. The goal is to keep your money and stack your money, not keep giving it away to make it back. So these are the top 5 saddest things that strippers have to deal with. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up.
So I guess the big concern is we've made being a stripper socially acceptable, and as you guys saw in the other video, women said it was empowering. It was what they thought feminism is about, and it's a way for women to show that they're powerful, to be strippers. I think that mindset is causing a problem, and it has women think that sex work is something to be proud of, and then some guy who has worked his butt off, in a clean cut environment, moving up the corporate ladder or being an entrepreneur, is supposed to accept that and those decisions, and her past decisions, her future comes with that past. And I think a lot of women want you to just say, well, forget about that. But there's so much, it's more complicated than to just forget about it, because it affects her development. It affects her communication skills. It affects her health. If she has STDs, all of those things. So, and so I think that's a big problem that we as a nation have put so much acceptance on so many things without understanding the repercussions. How does that affect your children? How do they see that? How do people treat your children because of that? We're just trying to normalize everything. So, and then you end up not liking sex, and so you, as you're saying, chaos for you, it dulls your senses, right? So these create so many problems. And my concern is, too often when there are too many women, they're teachers, they're in med school, they're lawyers, they're women getting fired, and they have because they have only fans accounts, which is your modern day of sex work online. There are some companies that don't take kindly to that. They're looking at the reputation of a teacher in high school or elementary school, and how the students are going to deal with that. So we are. I'm not saying that the house is burning and we're about to all die. The sky is falling. I'm only saying, as we continue to lower the bar, it affects us all. And so as more men walk away from marriage, and if most women were married in this pandemic, they wouldn't have had there would have been less pressure for them walking away from work, because the schools were closed, and so someone had to stay home with the children. So a lot of women had to back out of the workforce because of that. In a two-parent household, it's easier to manage that. So there are all kinds of considerations that are not being fully thought through, and I for anyone that lost someone in the because of COVID, I mean, my condolences to you, to your family. This for sure was a tough time. I lost only one person, to my knowledge, a cousin. But I think on the flip side, one of the silver linings is for people to re-examine how they structure their lives. This whole idea of I don't need anyone may not be the best strategy in moving forward in our society. Many people who were coupled up most likely had a better chance of going through this. And I know that divorce rate shot up because of the pandemic, which is a whole nother story. I think I did a show on that last year. But for the couples who actually had healthy relationships and became closer, and you had children, it was probably easier to weather this than to be a single mother and you have small children. You can't leave home. It's a rough situation to be in. So are people rethinking this? How they put value on another person? Are men just ATM machines in a sperm bank, like I've heard many women say, or do we actually offer some value that can contribute to a great quality of life? So there's this, I want to do part of what a woman had to say about why she left the stripper life. And it's interesting even how she got involved in that. So I don't want to give you guys my opinion. I want you to hear it straight. You know, our topic here is, will sex work be the fate of most women in the U.S.? There are all kinds of unforeseeable events that can change the trajectory of women in the workplace. We just watched that. And a lot of women actually went to sex work, OnlyFans being one way. Other women engaged in just outright prostitution. Is it healthier to be married? Hey, thanks a lot, Red Pill. Yep, always good to have you here. So let's hear what one more woman has to say about this way of life.
Like an informative story time. So when I was dancing, I was making a lot of money, but here's the gag. Here's the catch that nobody told you. It's not necessarily consistent. Well, at least with me, because a lot of people, there are girls that make money or whatever. There are girls that make consistent money all the time. So I can't speak for everybody. Let me just speak for myself. The money was not consistent. But when it was good, it was real good. Like $1,500 a night, $1,600. And then it'd be like nights where it'd be like 200, 300, 400 to me making nothing. To me, paying my house fee. The house fee is the fee that you have to pay the club to dance. And either breaking even. Well, yeah, always breaking even, or just like a little bit more, like $100 on top of that. And those nights will be irritating as hell because those will be mostly like the weekdays and stuff like that. So I have a story time on dancing. I don't want to get too much into it, but initially I went to bartend, which I have bartend and I did bottle service before after dancing. And initially, that's what I wanted to do, but the clubs kept saying, oh, you can dance, never danced in my life. Went there, my first night was New Year's Eve, and I made a lot of money, and I was happy about it. And I just was like, okay, I'm about to be rich. I'm about to stack up money. But that's not what happened, y'all. That's not even what happened. Y'all, let me tell you, first off. Okay, so why is that?
She's a little dramatic, so.
It is. Oh, foundation is $5 at Target. I got this for $1.99 online, but in store is $5. I think this is really the only foundation, which is making me sad. Okay, so when did I come to the realization that I was gonna stop dancing? Okay, so one thing I will say about the strip club is it's a lot of politics. It has a lot to do with clout in the strip club I worked at. All right, y'all. I worked in a strip club in Dallas, several strip clubs in Dallas. A lot of politics. There's a lot of hating.
So, interesting that, a lot of women don't realize, and she said sometimes she made $1,600 a night, a few hundred, and sometimes absolutely zero, nothing. And they spend a lot of money on new outfits. So they spend all kinds of money for their occupation, and sometimes can make $0. So I guess over the long haul, some women work out great, especially if they consistently make it. But sometimes, as she's saying, part of the reason she got out was because the money wasn't as consistent as she thought it would be. And what you guys didn't hear earlier, she was more of a bartender before, and they convinced her to dance, to be a stripper, and said she would make a lot of money. And so eventually she took them up on it. And she saw that she could make more money as a stripper than a bartender. And she went down that path that eventually she wanted out. but now she's talking about politics and drama and some of the and maybe women do understand this. What your job is a place to develop yourself as a person, communication skills, negotiation, conflict resolution. All of these things benefit you in other aspects of your life. So things you're learning at work can be really useful in other aspects of your life. So listen to the things to how her job was developing and preparing her for life.
Drama all the fucking time. And the good thing about me, and everybody do this, is like I was good at staying out of the drama because I did not talk to the girls in the strip club. That's one thing you need to know. Like, don't try to make friends with everybody, because this is why I say don't try to make friends with everybody. Because everybody is not your friend. You shouldn't be trying to make friends with everybody else. You shouldn't be trying to make friends with everybody at your regular job. So you shouldn't be trying to make friends with everybody at the strip club. Like, ooh, these girls is like ruthless, y'all. Ruthless. Super ruthless. It's another thing is like, you can't be shy going into the strip club. You can't be like, because you're not gonna make no money that way. Like, I try to do that whole I'm shy. I don't really no, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Like, you need to go in there very confident. And that's one reason why I did leave the strip club, because I feel like it was affecting my self-esteem. Like, your job is basically being judged off of how you look to see if somebody's gonna throw some money at you. And nights where I didn't make that much money, yeah, it would hit me hard. Like, I would be so upset. I'd be like, wait, especially I just paid $70 for my makeup. I just paid $150 for my outfit. I just paid $200 for my shoes. I just paid $300 for my hair. Back then I was wearing weaves. I didn't really care too much for wigs. So yeah, that was like so irritating, spending all that money and then not making it back, or then making $1,700 or whatever, and then I would do dumb stuff to blow it and be like, oh, I'm gonna buy a better outfit because I think that if my outfit is better, then I'll make twice as much. I'll make more than $1,700. I'm gonna make $3,400. Thinking that and thinking like that, then going out of town to dance and stuff like that. So really, to get back to the self-esteem thing.
Well, and plus they have to pay the house. There's a fee that they pay to be able to dance in clubs. So the strip clubs are pretty smart. They're making money on drinks. Sometimes they may have a cover charge. Like the women pay to be able to dance there, to market themselves. So sounds like this woman may not have been having sex with guys. But as you see, she's not what you would consider to be a very attractive woman. So that would be a big reason why her money wasn't consistent. I have no idea what her body looks like. But at least she's being honest, knowing that she's up there being judged as an object for her body. And that's what men are paying or tipping her for. So, yet they don't want anyone outside the club to do that.
Like, another thing that I noticed too is like, dudes would like touch me, and I was like, this my thing is, there's boundaries of whatever job you do. Boundaries of whatever job you do. People think, oh, because you work in a strip club, that they can come up to you and touch you or whatever. Like, nah, y'all, dudes will be just touching you, grabbing you, thinking they could do all types of stuff or whatever. And I was considered a bougie stripper because I didn't let that fly. Like, if you're not throwing money at me, don't touch me. And the females, the girls that would go to the strip club and watch dances would be super aggressive too. Like, they'd be thinking like, oh, I'm about to record you. No cameras in the club. Like,
interesting. She said, if you're not going to give me money, don't touch me. So you can touch me for money. So like, this creates a certain mindset. And I think it even affects women who never go in a strip club. So, touching me is like a transaction, and sex has become, it hasn't always been that way in the US. Sex itself has become a transaction. If you're not going to be giving me money, if you're not going to be showering me with something material, why should I have sex with you? So we've turned sex into a transaction. And I would assume just from a neurochemical, women who have had sex with too many men, there's a book called Hooked, written by two gynecologists who talk about women who have sex with a lot of different men and how it emotionally traumatizes them. And that affects their ability to secrete oxytocin, which is the bonding. So they don't bond. So what they're looking for to feel good about things is not sex, the bonding, it is material things. It becomes a transaction that gives them a dopamine rush. They got something out of it. They won. And that's affecting our culture as a nation, the horror culture.
I'm not going to be doing this forever. So I don't want all these pictures around and stuff. And then the strip clubs that I worked at weren't full nude. They were full bottom. So I had my clothes on most of the time. And I didn't really take my top off a lot. And if I did, it was because there was money on the floor. You feel me? They was throwing money. And then coming from California into dancing in Dallas, I never danced in California. But I'm saying coming from California and dancing in Dallas, it was a big culture shock because, I'm clearly different. The things I do is different. The things I say is different. I didn't understand. I didn't understand that the dudes standing around the club sometimes were people's pimps. Yeah, y'all, they're pimps. And I would think, okay, they throwing money on me because they like me or whatever, but they be throwing money on me because they're like, oh, you can make money with me, basically trying to recruit me, And having people steal, girl, they be stealing. I remember I bought this straightener. I got this straightener because off the strength of me, spending hundreds of dollars to get this straightener. And it was a cheat. And somebody stole it. They broke into my locker. They stole it. They stole all my dance clothes, which was worth almost $1,000, maybe more than that. This was a few months into.
Okay, so that's enough of her. So here's my concern with women who find it easy to jump into the sex working industry. It comes with so much other stuff. And listen, you hear about people who have a difficult day at work. They work in a corporate office. They make tough decisions that have a positive or even a negative impact on the lives of others. And that could be stressful, right? And they may bring that home if they had a big argument with the boss or something. But if you're in a place where she said this is filled with drama and politics and people are robbing you and pimps are trying to recruit you and you don't want to be touched, and the other woman you saw me put up is saying, well, men have problems with me if I'm a stripper. They don't want me to be a stripper, but you're not going to replace my lost income. The more we lower the bar and accept women with these kinds of professions, the more it affects us as a nation. I understand women want jobs so they can say they don't need a man, but you traumatize your children raised in a single family home, that being abandoned by one parent. You may not see that as a mother, but the loss of a parent creates some emotional trauma. I mean, what are we doing as a nation? Just being able to say you make money, is that healthy enough for you? What are you willing to trade your own sanity? I mean, just listen to what this woman is saying. And with this pandemic, a lot of women sort of just changed lanes. Now, not all women are going to be qualified to go on OnlyFans or be a stripper. I mean, you see that woman wasn't that attractive and she saw that making money wasn't as easy as she thought it would be. For some reason, she's saying, well, obviously I'm different. You work in a strip club and you want people to see you as being different. That's like being in prison and saying, I'm different from everyone in the prison. You're in prison because you committed a crime. You're in a strip club. People are going to see you as, they're going to see you as a sex worker. They're going to see you as someone who's in there to objectify your body. Yeah, and Mr. Earl, there are more and more women jumping into sex work. OnlyFans is just the best way, and a lot of them think they're covered and will never be found out on OnlyFans, except they are. I showed an article where a 26-year-old woman was fired. She was a high school teacher. So women have been sold that they can have it all. I can have a great job, children, husband, and do it all. And I can work long hours, and my children will love me, and my husband will cherish me. And I don't need a man. And this pandemic has shown us something else. I don't know if it's enough of a lesson. Lots of women are being told all they have to do is be fit and beautiful and feminine, and that's enough. And that's turning into acting classes. All the woman has to do is smile and say, I'm feminine and I'm fit. And fit can mean she just had the fat sucked out of her and has implants. And now she has a nice body. But the mindset that comes with actually having a healthy diet and working out is very different than going under the knife. Sex work comes with a price, and lots of women, attractive, average, or unattractive, think it's just an easy path. The cost is for us all. And when you hear these were not even the ugliest stories. What you hear about the women who get hooked on drugs, they're alcoholics. Lesbian relationships, lesbian marriages. Lesbian relationships are significantly more abuse happens in lesbian relationships than heterosexual. 45% divorce rate amongst lesbians. I'm just telling your daughter that she doesn't need a man is probably not in her best interest, because when it comes down to it, things like this pandemic or unexpected economic crashes, bubbles that burst and put us in a temporary downspin. If we're going to have women running off to do sex work, that's going to hurt us all in the long run. So maybe it's time to teach daughters more about cooperation and what it takes to make things work. Because I'm willing to bet the two-parent household that had healthy relationships before the pandemic made it through this a lot better than a single mother who had to stay home and couldn't go to work because she had young children. Or the woman who's bringing in different guys because she can't pay the bills and she's now a prostitute, low-key prostitute. Yeah, and Mr. Earl is also showing that they need men, because a lot of guys never stopped working. You notice your trash sanitation department, the trash was still being removed. Guys during snowstorms were still plowing snow. They were still drilling oil. The gas stations still functioned. Like, all these things were oil refineries. Steel is still being made. Cars are still being made. All of these things that are male jobs, construction, buildings were still being made, new homes, all of that. When it gets tough, men still show up. Yeah, that they should choose better, right? Men should just choose better. Well, so I showed this so men can choose better. So if a woman is a stripper, believe she's going to be bringing with her all the things that you heard there, and a lot of hypocrisy about they don't want to be judged, yet they can judge men at bachelor parties, and men at bachelor parties see strippers having sex with dudes at the bachelor party. So when they meet a woman who says she's a stripper and she does bachelor parties, private parties, what the hell do you think the guy is going to think? Hey, what's going on, Silent Lamont? Good to see you in the house, man. So a lot of guys do walk away from women who are strippers. You guys probably know who that basketball player was. He found out his wife used to be a stripper. He divorced her. He got rid of her immediately. See, these are all about decision making, mindset. Do you want to be with a woman who's a stripper? We've made it acceptable and okay, but there's so much that comes with it. Women who work in an environment where they're fighting one another, they're stealing from one another, they're doing excesses of alcohol and drugs. They have pimps who abuse them. So these women come out of environments where they're used to being abused, and they're so defensive that no matter what kind of guy you are, she's going to be on the defense. She's got to protect herself. Yeah, they are. Yep. And there are mothers who tell their daughters, or they either don't teach them to cook or they tell them to tell a man they can't cook. I dated a woman and she told me she couldn't cook. She was always at my house. And one day I went to her house with her parents and she cooked, and I was shocked. I was like, well, why'd you tell me you couldn't cook? And she said, well, her mother told her to never tell a man you can cook because you'll get stuck in a bedroom in the kitchen. So that's a good one, Silent Lamont. It's like a snake trying to convince you not to wear gloves before picking it up. Right. Yeah. And speaking of gloves, right? So a lot of these women can have all kinds of it. In addition to mental health problems, which I think it's difficult to leave that industry, the sex industry, without some kind of mental health challenge, even if it's on OnlyFans. I mean, because if you listen to the women who I did 3 different videos, you heard them talk about, how they felt about themselves when they couldn't make the money, or just having men judge them by their body and not feeling worthy enough, or seeing other women who had better bodies, who were more successful. So, that's a sort of a constant hammering. You're not good enough. And so now you're in a relationship and that hammering didn't just go away. Yeah. So some of these women, in addition to mental health, can be bringing sexually transmitted diseases that, uh, that can affect your unborn child. Just it's risky, man. It's risky. And women in the sex industry if they don't really do the work, and even if they do, that's still just too risky. Right. And right, thinking in the now, right? So even the woman who's in law school and being a stripper, she's negatively impacting her future career. She's not doing an internship and making less money, but the internship allows her to make contacts, get real experience. Um, so she's at a loss. Yeah, Silent Lamont, and that is it. Guys have stopped asking important questions. A long time ago, courting and dating was not about taking a woman out for dinner and movies and all that stuff. Hell, you'd go sit on her porch and talk to her, and you may not be the only guy who comes to see her, but damn if you didn't want to know those conversations on her front porch with her father being in the living room, those conversations were really about you finding out who the hell she really was before you married her. And now a lot of women want these exciting dates, which all the excitement serves as a distraction from you literally getting to know who she is. And yes, you can have lots of fun with someone and you go to have all this excitement and you do all these different things and you don't ask the important questions. And even when you don't do that, even phone conversations, a lot of guys are not asking questions. Women too, but I mean, you know, if you're going to be financially responsible for the relationships, and especially women saying to a man, your money is our money and her money is her money, you're financing this relationship or marriage. You better know who the hell you're inviting into your life. What do you mean? Uh, Daughters and moms? Dude, are you saying what I think? Daughters and moms together? You mean sexually? Really? Yeah. You're wearing the uniform. So you come in as a fireman, you know you're wearing a fireman's uniform. You must be a fireman. Uh, you come in with a prostitute's uniform, but don't judge me as one. Yeah, that's and then they want the guy they call the high value man, this corporate guy making a healthy six figures. And you've developed an entire mindset that helps you survive in a stripper in the sex world, the sex working world. But in this guy who's worked his butt off to move up the corporate ladder or be an entrepreneur, that mindset doesn't work. Especially when, you know, a lot of people network with their wives. A lot of very successful people, their wives are able to work the room. They go to fundraisers, and having a wife who knows how to dress appropriately and appropriately engage people, knows how to kind of screen people, qualify people who are good future prospects for doing business, especially if the husband's an entrepreneur. But if even in the corporate world, right, there are women who make contacts, and it, that contact helps her husband get a job in another company. Corporate world is a cult. Interesting. Well, for the size of our society, uh, someone had to start scaling up the ability to make shoes, right, for millions of people. So you just build a much larger infrastructure. Some CEOs have lost their jobs for hooking up with women, a woman below them, even if it was a serious relationship. Yeah, chaos for you. That and so that's the challenge, right? So that's why I wanted you guys to hear women straight out of their mouths. So that, you know, women may see this as an easy out, right? So the economy's rough. There's a pandemic. A bubble burst again, and so we go into a downward spiral before we turn around and come up with, you know, what do these women do in the meantime? So they go into the sex industry, and that comes with things that uh, it's not so easy for them to shed, and so they'll bring that into another relationship and dare you to judge them for being in the sex industry. Yeah, man. Uh, Smart move, chaos. Yeah, STDs, all that stuff. So, hey, this was Friday, YouTube and chill. I wanted to have this conversation about, will sex work be the fate for many women in the U.S.? Is that what's going to happen? We've got the pandemic has maybe just shined a spotlight on something that can happen at a level that's unprecedented. And when you combine that with technology, replacing jobs, outsourcing, lower wages, hell, they're even able to outsource some parts of the legal profession overseas. Accounting, some aspects of accounting. There are lots of things that are getting outsourced. So as men have taken a big hit because of that, you see a lot more drug abuse, you see crime, alcoholism. Well, what happens when that starts to hit women? Women just jump to the sex industry. I mean, even though we outsource, the one thing about outsourcing that people don't always see is that outsourcing helps bring money back to the US, because even if we send out 10,000 jobs to India, what we did is created 10,000 jobs in India, and we may get consulting projects. We may get they'll have to build a building, so we may get some construction work. But the biggest thing is those 10,000 people in India can now buy products from the U.S., which creates more jobs here in the U.S. So eventually the money comes back. We just don't do a great job of preparing, of helping people fill the gaps, the voids, right? So one job leaves the nation and goes overseas. So we need to upskill people and train them. The Scandinavian countries do that a lot better. We don't do that very well here. So that's my concern. Are women looking at all the consequences of just jumping into sex work and saying, well, I got the money, so everything is fine. But it comes with so many other things. And I urge you guys, and I know you guys are not the ones who would jump into that, but except people, guys who may be thinking that, well, if I'm with a stripper, it's going to be great sex and she's freaky. What hell, you heard that woman say she's unattached from sex. She doesn't even care about that. So it's not what you think it is. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Mr. Earl, yeah, there are guys who have lost. I think Hewlett Packard, the guy had a relationship with a woman who was a couple of levels below him. So she must have been a high performer, but the board found out about it and cut him. I think there was another guy, and I may be confusing HP, but the guy was having a relationship with a vendor. He lost his position. Yeah, the ideal man is supposed to be the man who just accepts anything. Oh, honey, you are a stripper. You are a prostitute. You're just beautiful and fit and feminine, and that's the problem I have. Just telling women they have to be fit, feminine, and beautiful and friendly. It doesn't really tell them how to actually make things work in a relationship. And one of the greatest investments a woman can make in herself is developing conflict resolution skills, because it's difficult to get away from misunderstandings. A man and woman coming together is like two companies coming together. There's a merger going on, and the way you do things in one company is not the way you do things in another. And you can have misunderstandings, or you can think your way is better than their way. And maybe you have to create a third way that neither is done, but it's an amalgamation of the two. Same thing happens in intimate relationships, and you have misunderstandings, or this is not the way we did it in my family, or That doesn't make sense, and maybe they don't understand. So you can end up in huge conflicts when there's really no reason for that. And I think it's very valuable for women to have conflict resolution skills as opposed to getting upset, angry, and getting in a man's face and say, I'll kick your ass. And that backfires. And you guys have heard me say 70% of domestic violence is initiated by women, not men. So a lot of women are entitled. So if they're coming out of this sex world where there's violence and theft and drama, abuse, don't be surprised if she very easily defends herself for small reasons when there's no reason to. She's defensive, she's angry, she's violent, because that's how she survived in that world. And guys, it's not worth the risk. Hey, Ruthie, that's interesting. 90% of sex worker clients are married men. Can you drop that the link to that statistic? I'd be interested in seeing where you got that statistic. 90%. I'm not refuting it. I just want to see the stats on it. Otherwise, you're dropping. See, this is a problem that we have in our world, is people just make these opinions based on what they think, but they have no facts. So, if you're going to drop that, let's see the stats on that. Yeah, I don't care about talking to sex workers. We just went through a whole thing about how they're not very smart. I just put up videos of them saying a lot of these women are not very knowledgeable about many things. Yeah, I don't want to hear what a few people said. I'm willing to bet you don't know 20,000 sex workers who told you that. So, yeah, well, I showed a video, Ruthie B, where that's a woman interviewed them, and they asked if are you strippers feminists, and said yes, and we're empowered, and we're we stand up for women. So they do believe they're empowering women, and they don't want to be judged for their looks, and they don't want to be objectified. Yet they're in a profession where they get paid for being objectified. So, and they don't want to be judged for being a stripper, except they want to judge men for going to bachelor parties. Very interesting. Yeah, yeah. I know of course there are married guys. I just want to see the facts, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. 90%, I have no problem with it. I just need to see the facts. I haven't seen that statistic. Yep, risk with STDs, absolutely. Speaks in opposites and double speak. Yes, it does. I don't mind you making statements, Ruthie B, but if you're going to start laying out any kind of statistical analysis, you need to be able to back it up. Otherwise, I'm going to question it. I'm not invalidating it. It may be correct. I need the stats on it. That's all. And yes, they are available for men to cheat. So this is my concern. There's something called black swan events, and for those of you who don't know, there's a book called The Black Swan. And what a black swan is, it comes out of a situation. I think it was in the 1600s when before the Europeans went to Australia. There was a belief that all swans are white. That's a scientific fact, right? Statistically speaking, they never saw any swan in any color except for white. And scientifically, it was a fact. When they first went to Australia, they saw a black swan, and it invalidated this whole belief that all swans are white. So what they call, and so because they could have never predicted in advance that they were going to see a black swan in Australia or anywhere else in the world, they say events that they couldn't foresee, that were unpredictable. You had no way of knowing this was going to happen in the future. They call them black swan events. So you could say the pandemic, and I've heard lots of people say they saw the pandemic coming. Great. But most people didn't see the pandemic coming and the impact it was going to have. And you look at the workforce, as I said, 900,000 women left the workforce last year. And that statistic came out in, I think, August of last year. So that was, or maybe it was October, but it wasn't, it was before the end of the year. So nearly 1 million women left the workplace. Single mothers, young children, they couldn't leave them home because the schools were closed. So this black swan event has shown single mothers how vulnerable they can be. And many of them may have gone over to OnlyFans. They may have gone to just straight out prostitution, having men come to the house, paying bills. And a lot of people, you've heard these situations where that guy pays the bills and he also molests and rapes the son, the daughter. These are not good situations to be in. So this black swan event has shown a huge flaw in the idea of a woman not needing a man, because the people who were in two-parent households, even if both worked, the husband could continue to work and the wife could stay home with the small children. You didn't have that as a single mother. I mean, there are stories of children being beaten to death during the pandemic because the mother was frustrated. She's having to deal with her children for the first time, like really deal with them, and finding out the teacher wasn't lying when the teacher said your child is a problem in school. So, these black swan events could be for anything. We didn't see the pandemic coming, the bubble bursting back in, 2008. Anything that could put us in a downward spiral. And I keep emphasizing that we're watching jobs whittle away because of outsourcing, technology, lower wage workers. There's a big picture. I think a lot of women may end up getting caught out there. And is that going to be the choice? Just be a sex worker. But eventually, what happens when men just get sort of oversaturated? The sex work gets oversaturated. There's too much competition. Men have become desensitized to seeing another naked body. And they're not willing to pay OnlyFans or whatever the new thing is. Is this being thought through? How will this affect our children in the future? So I wanted to present this. I would love if you guys, yeah, money system, yeah, right. And how will the U.S. currency be valued in the future? How will that affect the economy, right? Now, I lived in Mexico for about 2 years, and it was interesting when, I forget the reasons, but let's say I was there and I could get 6 pesos, 7 pesos to a dollar. And then all of a sudden it jumped to 10 and 12 pesos to a dollar, which meant the cost of food went up, and the people there got hit hard. You know, I had U.S. currency, so you know it was good for me. All of a sudden, I'm getting 10 pesos to a dollar. But the people there were getting hit hard. And then the currency drops back down to 7 or 8 pesos, except the price of food didn't drop back down. So, you know, there are lots of things like we're like that's just chipping away at us economically. People need to start thinking about the big picture. So look, guys, if you haven't smashed the like button, the thumbs up, do that for this video. If you haven't subscribed, this is a great time to subscribe to my channel. I like bringing quality work, things that you guys can think about. Some of these things you may already know. I always like offering different perspectives. And if you haven't joined me on Patreon, check me out over there. I have some videos that I've never put anywhere in the public. Subscribe to my channel here, so smash the like bell, the bell. And support is always greatly appreciated. I love the comments you guys make. You give me great interaction. So, you know, I love it. I love seeing you guys here all the time. Yeah, Ruthie B, they're being exposed to more violent porn for sure. And I've heard stories of women saying guys expected her to do things out of porn. And she was like, oh, I don't do that. What helped me understand, Ruthie, that according to the Harvard Medical School, women initiate 70% of domestic violence. So is that because of violent porn, or is that something else? Because something that needs to be addressed. Yeah. So, guys, I'll be back Sunday, and I'll have something provocative for us to talk about. And I have to do this one plug, guys. If you haven't seen this already, I've written a book. It's called Here's Why You Can't Find Love. It is such a perfect book for understanding how you sabotage yourself, even in a workplace. The skills in this book are completely transferable to your professional life, your personal life, your family life. It's a journey into a mindset and skills on conflict resolution, negotiation, networking, better relationships with colleagues, with clients. And of course, these are all the things that make relationships work. So I talk about things that sabotage. I talk about creating great relationships, and those great relationships that you work. It doesn't matter if it's your intimate life or with your client or with your colleagues. And I talk about cooperation and collaboration, and I really make people look at things in a way they haven't. It's a very short book. It's only about 110 pages. So it's a quick read, and it's not just me, my ideas talking. It's almost like I did a live. This book is almost like a live stream. It's me and 5 women who interview me and ask me a lot of questions. So it's partly autobiographical also. So it's almost like reading a movie. You can buy it. I'll actually drop a link in the description where you can buy it directly from my publisher. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, this is why I said a lot of women are saying your money is my money, your money is our money, and my money is my money. So this whole idea of look, a marriage is a legal binding contract. It is a marriage certificate. Literally, is a prenuptial agreement sanctioned by the government. And in most cases, it's not in the man's best interest should you have to divest. So if you are considering that, you need an amendment to that, and it cannot be a 1 or 2 page document. It needs to be about 8 to 10 pages, And this woman needs to be saying that, I'm not signing this under duress. So, but the fact that you're creating a legal binding contract, a legal partnership with another person, and in that partnership, they are saying that, well, you need to just take care of all the finances, and I have money. Imagine having a business partner who has money and refuses to put any into the business and say that's only your job, and I'm just here. I'm going to talk to the clients, or or the vendors. The wife is like, well, the most important thing is the children, and as the husband, you're forgotten. So that's a problem. This whole idea of partnership, and sex has become a transaction. Yeah, and so Silent Lamont, right? So, and the biggest problem I have with this whole thing about high value is no one's really telling women what they're responsible for. I'm listening to women I've known for years, and some of them are very young, like in 20s. And when I ask, well, you want to be married, so what is the man getting from you in this marriage? And she says, well, I'm fit and feminine. I'll be fit and feminine and friendly. And, they just become parrots. They're just repeating what they heard, but they're actually not developing the kind of relationship to understand what it's like to be a wife, to be in a relationship where you're actually out creating something together. That they just have these sound bites. Hey, Ruthie, just want to see the facts. Um, so Ruthie, here's one thing, and I'm not going to pull it up here. Women's brains don't function the same as men's. Uh, Women literally, and they've done tens of thousands of neuroimaging. There's empirical evidence for this that shows that women literally worry about things that men just don't. They put men and women in the same situation at the same time in the same place, and they did neuroimaging, and they saw how women worried about things that men don't worry about, and that causes a problem. That's when we call that women being more emotional than men. And so I'm not saying it to be pejorative. I'm not putting women down. I understand that's just a function of how they were created. Men didn't do that. And there is a dumbing down, yes, that, the hell they say in the past 100 years, IQs have dropped on average 14 points. Okay. So, yeah. Well, technically, technically, no one can dumb you down. You're responsible for the things that you know or don't want to know. There are some people you ask them, if you could know about certain things about your behavior and how it sabotages you, would you want to know or would you rather stay ignorant to it? And there are people who would say, I'd rather stay ignorant. I actually, unfortunately, I used that article so many times at Harvard Medical School. I don't know which year it was written. They took it down. Um, yeah, curiosity, it could be passed down, and maybe more than passing it down, Ruthie B, is not so much of passing it down. It's creating an environment where a child is allowed to be curious. Because children, you have, I mean, just think of it. Children don't know anything. So they have to ask everything. What is this? What's that? Why is the sky blue? Why is this? Why is the grass green? When adults start saying, stop asking so many stupid questions, you shut the child down. But if you engage the child and you give them things to think about, you create an environment for the child to be curious. On average, a lot of 4-year-olds test as a genius. By the time they finish high school, their IQs are average, above average, below average. Most people, their IQs drop by the time they finish high school. So what does that say about our education system? It's not fostering the genius that people come to the table with. Silent Lamont, I love that. That would be like calling a fruit fly smart because it matures in 3 days. Yeah, exactly. Or a dog that can have puppies in 12 months. Does that mean that it's more intelligent because it can get pregnant in 12 months? So let me address some facts about IQs. The majority of women are average IQs or above average. They sit in that average. Most women sit in the average. When it comes to the outliers like high IQs, most of high IQs are men. They just are. Women sit more in the average, in the middle. Men go on extremes. Now, when you go to the exceptionally low IQs, it's also mostly men. So men occupy the spaces of exceptionally high IQs and exceptionally low. The same thing when you talk about the most dangerous criminals. If you look at the top 100 criminals in U.S. history, you won't find one woman on that list. Yeah, I just said that, Ruthie B. Men occupy both ends of the extremes, the lowest and the highest. And of course, they're in the middle. I mean, about 68% of the US population has an average IQ. About 12% has above average. That gets you to 80% of the population, right? Only 2% has a high IQ. That means 18% has a below average IQ. That's a lot of people. If your IQ is 83 or below, not even the military will take you because they say it's difficult. People with lower IQs, they don't function well with instructions and all that stuff. So, Ruthie B, what I find interesting is for the past several decades, women have dictated what manhood is. They've told men what it means to be a real man. And when it comes to IQ, there's certain things they give lots of IQ tests throughout school. You can't hide that. So and here's what see IQ is. There's some math in it, and there's lots of logic and reasoning. But the one of the hugest determining factor of a high IQ is having distinctions for pattern recognition. And you see all of these in IQ tests. You see all of these parts, pieces, and they're looking to see if you can recognize the pattern in each of them. And the most complex things they say you have a high IQ is the most complex pattern recognition. See, people with high IQs can recognize patterns. They can connect dots where other people don't see dots. That's why you get the Teslas of the world who created wireless technology, and he was talking about cell phones in the 1800s. He's recognizing patterns and connecting dots that most people don't see. Men are doing that. College degree does not mean a high IQ unless you're in math and physics. Most of those people are high IQ people. So what word, Ruthie B, what word do we have when we deprive men of manhood? Because when you tell men being masculine is toxic, you're crushing men. We don't ever say that women is toxic. When a high school teacher has sex with a student, he's crushed for that. When a woman has sex, when a female high school teacher has sex with even a 13-year-old boy, she's given a slap on the wrist. So women are rewarded even for bad behavior. So Ruthie B, here's the tough conversation that men could have had decades ago. When women say they're oppressed and they wanted opportunities, men could have told them you have two choices: build women-only companies and show that you can compete in the open market, just like men did. That means you're going to have to build companies, you're going to have to create brand new industries, and it means you're going to have to invest. And the idea that women didn't have money is a lie. For over 100 years, women have inherited money from their husbands, fathers, grandfathers, and they've inherited millions, hundreds of millions, and even billions over the decades. So women have had access to billions of dollars of money for decades, and they did not invest in women-only companies. The other thing is women could say, you know what? We're being oppressed, we're packing up, and we're moving out, and we're going to show you we can do better than men, and we're going to build our own civilization. We're going to mine our own iron ore, drill oil, copper mines, coal mine. We're gonna grow our own food. We're gonna make our own machinery. We're gonna do everything. We're gonna build our transportation system, education system, architect, all of that stuff women could have done. They could have packed up and left. Instead of begging men for jobs and companies men built, why didn't women compete like men? Because men are not oppressing women. There's nothing stopping women from building their entirely female-only civilization. If women think that being in a male society is suppressing them as they hop on a public transportation or get in a car and drive on roads built by in cars built by men, on cell phones created by men, homes, buildings, skyscrapers, bridges, dams, boats, planes, military. Why haven't women done the same? Why haven't they shown they can do the same? I'm not sure where you got black and white thinking. I said pattern recognition. No, women's brains light up and they make women look. Women are 3.5 times more likely to attempt suicide because they suffer from anxiety and depression way more than men, and it's because of the way their brains work. It has nothing to do with men. You can take men out of the picture. I mean, there are case studies of female-only companies, and you see where that happens. No, I didn't say nuance. Pattern recognition is not nuance. It means you don't understand pattern recognition. It has nothing to do with nuance, not even close. Technically, men built this civilization. We built this. We drilled. We went into the iron ore mines. We drilled the oil with the copper mines. We cut stones out of mountains. We did all of that stuff. And before we did all that, we did the planning. And in order to build a civilization, you have to finance it. And then you have to make sure you're profitable, so you're accounting. And then you have to build an infrastructure of education to make sure people can constantly learn so you can perpetually build. All of that planning happens before one person picks up a brick. And you have to get iron ore so you can build machinery. Like all these things men did. Men died in steel mills, coal mines. See, Ruthie B, here's what I think you don't get. Men could survive for 100 years or more without one single woman. Women couldn't. Men could survive and build a civilization without one woman. And when the last man dies, he dies. Women wouldn't last 10 years. And I see you want to try and change the conversation because you don't understand what pattern recognition is. I'm only giving you the facts of empirical evidence. It's not my opinion. Opinions aren't very useful. I'd rather ask questions. But I suggest you get a stronger grip on pattern recognition. It would be easier to have a conversation. Yeah, you're trying really hard. Yeah. So look, not everyone has an intellectual capacity to understand everything. It's easy to repeat things that you read in books, but once people go outside of what you read in books, it becomes much more difficult. And that's what it seems to be happening. Perhaps you should look up the Dunning-Kruger effect, because that may be what you're presenting here is a perfect example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. I'm not sure what equal value has to do with patterns. What does that have to do with pattern recognition? What does equal value have to do with pattern recognition? I said connect dots that most people can't see. So perhaps what I'm saying is something you can't see. Well, pattern recognition is a major part of high intelligence. Low pattern recognition is a major part of low intelligence. And then there are people who have average ability to recognize patterns. So let's look at pattern recognition in the topic for tonight. Let's look at the pattern that happened when the pandemic came and lots of women went into sex work. There's a pattern. And this is not the first time this has happened. You see the pattern. So there's also another pattern when it comes to divorce. There's a pattern. 70% of women initiate divorce. That's a pattern. I didn't make the pattern. No, you look at OnlyFans and you look at the amount of women who joined OnlyFans, if you look at the amount of women who were OnlyFans 24 months ago, and then you look at 12 months ago, there's a pattern that you recognize. There's an increase. There's another pattern. If you look at women and their happiness in the 70s, women were much happier in the 70s than they are now. There's another pattern. So there are these patterns happening. These are not theories. No, this is not, I didn't say correlation. Now I do get, so there's a correlate. So, and that's a good question, right? So there's a correlation between the way women see themselves and the ability to earn income. When things get tough, there seems to be a pattern that women go to sex work. No, actually, there's no cause. There's no such thing as cause and effect. And I know that people have been taught that. So the correlation, your actions are a correlate of the world is occurring. It's not that the world causes you to to act in a certain way. It's that you have a conversation in your head that you've presupposed that this is the best way to survive. And so your actions are correlated. And there's a pattern. There's a pattern for women who work at strip clubs. There's a pattern. There's violence, there's drug addiction, there's drug abuse, there are pimps, there are patterns. So if you engage in that environment, there's something called neuroplasticity. If that hasn't been part of your life in the past, neuroplastically, you're going to grow these brand new neural paths that have you engage in this new environment in a way that you survive. And you start to develop new patterns because of neuroplasticity and you growing these new neural paths that have you think about things that you haven't engaged in. You're now in the sex world. So you're going to see things in a way you haven't. I don't know if there's anything as reality, Ruthie B. Yeah, they silent Lamont, right? Not all. And there's a pattern, right? Perfect, right? That's a pattern. And she's trying to change the subject to something else. Do you know about this? It's like the pattern recognition. And she's still trying to get a grip on pattern recognition. She's trying to call it correlation. There's a pattern. And there are patterns that, there are patterns that develop where some people can see the pattern before it fully develops, before it fully manifests itself. And so these people who you call geniuses are able to see the pattern out before it even exists when it's in its complete abstraction. And that's a mark of high intelligence. When you have to keep explaining things to people and they keep trying to make it match something they already know, that's a sign of someone who has low pattern recognition. They can only see it through what they already know. And those people like that slow up the conversation or progress in society. So women have a pattern which has them go into sex work. And we've seen this pattern. It's not my idea, it's what they do. OnlyFans has proved that. There's a huge pattern with the amount of women who jumped onto OnlyFans. There was another pattern when the pandemic started. Some of the most popular videos on YouTube were cooking. And these were women learning to cook. So does that mean there were a lot of women who never learned to cook? And now that we have a pandemic and you can't get out, and restaurants are closed, fast food places closed, these women had to learn to cook. There was a pattern that emerged from that. Oh, these are not theories. See, that's the thing. People who have low pattern think it's a theory, but they can't see what's happening. So Nikola Tesla is a perfect person. He could see pattern recognition. If you listen to his writing, if you read his writings, he actually talked about the internet. He saw pattern recognition of an internet, of information being exchanged in an abstract fashion. It wasn't a theory, it was pattern recognition. He saw wireless technology. And Marconi came over and learned from him and made radio because he saw the pattern, but people couldn't see it all the way out. Some people are slow like that. Absolute projection, Silent Lamont. Well, she has lower pattern recognition. I mean, she's probably just average or even one standard deviation below average. And so I'm not sure if she understands what that means. The only reason sex work exists is because men are buying it. I don't know. So if men stop buying it, what would that mean for women? I mean, no one's forcing women to be sex workers. This is why you have geniuses who create things that other people couldn't imagine, because they see pattern recognition and then they come and prove it. It's people who can't see it who need the proof. Those people are very slow. What's going on, Myth Twist? Good to see you in the house, man. Exactly. They see the pattern before it's there. Everyone else is waiting for the proof. Hell, I mean, Nikola Tesla was talking cell phones. Technically, it wasn't a theory. He just saw the pattern. Other people couldn't see it. Steve Jobs, most people don't know. In 1983, Steve Jobs presented something called the Newton. It was the iPad in 1983. People didn't see the pattern. And here we have it. If it was a theory, it wouldn't be selling. It wouldn't work now. Well, hey, Myth Twist. For some people, it's a theory. For others, look at Alan Turing. The first computer was created by him in World War II. And he built it to algorithmically predict when the Germans would bomb, where they would be placing mines and bombs, where they were going to attack. And so the mathematicians couldn't do it. So it wasn't his theory. He actually built the entire computer in his head, the whole thing. It wasn't a theory. And he asked the British for the resources to build this machine that could factor these algorithms faster and many more than what a human could do. And it was correct. And they didn't even call it a computer. They called it the Turing machine for Alan Turing. They called it that for a very long time before they finally called it a computer. But Alan Turing, he had pattern recognition. It's almost like thinking algorithmically. Like you can algorithmically think through patterns and see the end result. And most people can't even see the dots that you're connecting. So for most people, it looks like a theory. And that's why they call those people geniuses, because they can see things that other people can't. Okay, I don't know. Well, apparently you don't know what pattern recognition is. So, I mean, that could be part of your upbringing, right? Not sure where the insult, no one insulted you here. Oh, yeah, you know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. Good, you must have looked it up. Took you a while. I was waiting for that. Man, that was slow. Uh, that's technically not it's not an insult. Lots of people overestimate their intelligence. She's not argumentative. She's just protecting herself. That's all. She's probably accustomed to invalidating people and changing the subject and trying to get people off track when she's in an area where she knows nothing about it. And you're admitting that you don't listen. I never said pattern recognition alone was high IQ. I said one of the most important factors. And when you look at the most complex parts of IQs, really deal with pattern recognition. It really does. Hmm. You've never heard me or anyone here say anything about superiority between femininity and masculinity. So I'm not sure. See, now that's an example of how a woman's brain jumps to conclusions and creates stories that never existed. Not sure how you came up with that. That's a group thing. Lots of women do that. So it's very common. So you're actually turning out to be more common than you think, Ruthie B. And that's why the Dunning-Kruger effect. See, you're doing what the average person does. These are very average responses from very average women. No, no. See, when they put pattern recognition, you can have different shapes, and they're asking you to look at patterns, or you can put numbers. So, you can put numbers in a sequence. You can have 10 numbers, and they'll ask you based on the pattern of the numbers, what's the next number? That's pattern recognition. That's not a premise. It's being able to see the whole thing, the pattern, what the pattern lays out, relationships. You're still having a difficult time with this, Ruthie B. Yeah, that's why I said Dunning-Kruger, because you're having a really, really difficult time here. I mean, I see that often, so. Well, so pattern recognition is important because we can look at the patterns that when things get rough, what's a pattern that women jump to? Sex work. Lots of women do that. So they say they don't need a man, but the first thing they do is they look for a man who's going to pay their bills. And there's another pattern. Women have screamed they're oppressed by men as men have built an entire civilization to make life safer and easier for women. And women claim they're still not happy. I'm telling you, the solution, Ruthie B, is to take your perfect military score and take 10 million women with you and build your own civilization. Men built this one. Build your own. Make your own companies. Invest. Do all the things. Do it better than men. I'm not sure why you haven't packed up yet. Yeah, exact myth twist, right? And it's not a theory. You can just see it. But if you just look at part of IQ test is not a premise. It starts off with a number like 3, and then it goes to 7, and then it go. It's asking you, can you see the pattern in the numbers in the sequence of numbers? It's not a. It's just pattern recognition. They do it with shapes. They do it with all kinds of things. They do it with pictures. There are lots of ways to have pattern recognition. There's not one way. It's not premise. She's really struggling with this. This is like really difficult. And yes, exactly. It goes against the current narrative myth twist, and people can't see where this is going. And I this is part of it. The show. Do women see that going into sex work, there's a pattern recognition and a mindset that goes with that goes down this path of emotional trauma, abuse, drug abuse, physical abuse, and you come out of that. The woman comes out of that in a way that she really doesn't. And so then by the time she's like, okay, well, maybe I should have settled down. Looks like it's a dead end. Well, she's going down this pattern recognition. That's a dead end. And there are millions of women on that road. Millions. And they don't realize that they're on a dead end street. Like they didn't recognize the pattern, that it was a dead end. A myth twist. I'd love to see women create their own nation. Women only, and build it up from nothing. I wonder how long before the pirates would invade them. But yeah. And country boy, yeah, there's another pattern. Small percentage of guys have multiple children with different women. There's a pattern recognition. This is a tough conversation for you, Ruthie B. But I really do appreciate that you came in here. Not sure why you took this path that you've taken, but it seems to be a pattern that many men see in the U.S. And it's a blind spot. So there's sometimes people engage in patterns and they can't see it. They can't see that they do it, and there are people around them that do it, and they can't see that it's detrimental to them. And they actually think they're being powerful. So look at strippers. Strippers believe what they're doing is being empowering. They can't see the pattern of long-term downward spiral, mental, physical health, drug and alcohol abuse, STDs, emotional abuse, physical abuse. This is unhealthy. But most people can see that pattern is a dead end. It's pattern recognition. It's not a theory. Whew. Yeah, we've gotten a horror culture now, right? Yeah, that's a recognizable pattern, right? Women uh, cheer on the horror culture. Hell, there was a woman who was I think the California division of the NAACP. She was the president of the NAACP at a strip club, putting money in a woman's G-string. I mean, come on, what is that saying? I don't know your military score, so I never dropped it. I never dropped your military score. I didn't even know you were in the military. I just brought up the military and said, I brought up a fact that if your IQ is 83 or below, they won't accept you in the military. It's a they've tried it. So they have a cutoff, and it's 83. This is not my opinion. It's not a theory. It's not a premise. But the military has recognized the pattern. When people have IQs below a certain point, the pattern is unproductive and it's not favorable for the person or the military. So they have a cutoff. Myth twist, they'll live in a magical place with a fog, right? Yeah. They'll all be warriors. No, you're providing some, yeah. Anyway, well, it's not necessarily that people imagine things; they can see it. I mean, I just named some patterns. There are blind spots that people have just because you don't see it. Hell, Copernicus recognized patterns in the way the planets were moving. The, the whole astronomy and scientific community believed that all the planets revolved around the Earth. Copernicus saw a pattern that didn't match that. So he did some new calculations and said, hey, the planets don't go around the Earth, they go around the sun, including the Earth goes around the sun. And he was executed for that. The church had heresy, so he was executed. So the rest of the scientific community had blind spots because they had inaccurate assessment of what was happening. So that happens often. People have an inaccurate assessment of themselves, their environment, and they can't see the patterns. And when someone like Copernicus comes along and says, hey, you're blind to this, this is what's really happening, they can't see it. They think they're being insulted. Well, advertisers technically exploit women. So there's a book called The Hidden Persuader, written around 1956, and they talk about how in the 40s and 50s they were trying to get women to buy certain things and they wouldn't do it. One of the things was perm. They wanted women to put perms in their daughter's hair. Women didn't want to do it. They felt guilty about it. So they brought in psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, and devised marketing campaigns to get women to completely change their mind, and it worked. And they kept the psychologists and sociologists and anthropologists to create trigger points for women, to get women to abandon their own values and spend money in a way that wasn't even logical. And they still do it. It's why women make 77% of consumer purchases, because it's easier to use advertising to get women to spend their money than it is for men. Men understand that capital comes with responsibility. So men go out and make money, and this is a pattern, and you can see the patterns between men and women. Men go out and make money and say, great, I can take care of a wife and children. I make sure they're educated, well-fed, they live in a great place. A woman makes money and she does not care about those things. See, a man will help build the community. He'll also, not only his family, he'll create jobs. A woman says, I don't need a man, and she'll have a kid and not even care about the well-being of the child, and she'll just go shopping. She'll buy things that she never wears, doesn't need. There's a pattern recognition. I didn't make this up. This is not my theory. Men buy corporations because that's one way to grow your company. That's one way to enter new markets. It's a way to buy management. It's a way to buy technology, intellectual capital, IP, intellectual property. It's part of a strategy. Well, hey, Ruthie B, tell me how you heard about me. Maybe I've seen you here before, but how'd you hear about me, Ruthie B? I'd love to hear that. Yeah, Myth Twist, you do have a very high IQ, no question. And 160, 160 makes it even difficult for a gifted person at 145. If someone is at 145, they are gifted. I mean, that's like maybe 1% uh, has an IQ of 145. But if a 145 gets it with a 160, that 145, as brilliant as they are, even though they are smarter than 99% of the population, 160 is not even like, it's less than 1%, maybe less than 0.5. That 145 has a difficult time understanding a 160. And so that becomes the problem. That's when you start getting the Dunning-Kruger effect, because someone could have an above average IQ and they are smarter than 90% of the people they meet, except if they haven't encountered people who are in that top 1%, they'll have a false sense of security and they'll think that top 1% is crazy. So they have a difficult time comprehending with someone who is well beyond what they are. And that happens a lot. And that's the guys Dunning and Kruger, they discovered this. Yeah, Myth Twist, it definitely separates people, no question. Yep, yep. People become offended. They have to defend themselves. They have to start trying to invalidate. They start trying to make it match something they already know, even though they have no idea. And we're watching that happen here live. I'm glad this is recorded here. This is perfect. I tell me which assessment I made that was inaccurate. Women's brains function differently than men's. That's not inaccurate. Yeah, I actually looked for it. I think Sunday, and it wasn't there. That the article is gone. It's been there for years. I think it was from 2015. I've used it so many times. um, I'm guessing some woman must have reported it. They literally took it down. So, I mean, of course you're going to have your thoughts about that, but I'm pretty sure you can find some remnants of it. Someone made a PDF of it and copied it somewhere. You can find it. Just Google women initiating 70% of domestic violence. Something will come up. So you're gonna have to do a little work on your own. I actually had the link to the article. Let's see. How do I want to do this? So let's pull out. So let's do a quick share screen for you, Ruthie B. Ruthie B, I want you to look at this. This is the World Economic Forum site. You can see the link here. I'm doing a screen share. And notice what the article's saying. Women have more active brains than men, according to science. And women's brains are significantly more active in many regions than men's, according to new research. The findings, and this is from August 10th, 2017. So this is very recent. The findings could help explain why women are more vulnerable. Women are more vulnerable to anxiety, depression, insomnia, and eating disorders. It's because their brains are more active. They worry about things. They have more anxiety. They make up things. And so you don't think I'm just making this up. I'll drop the link in the chat. And there you go. That was a screen share. I don't need to read the whole article. I've done a live stream on this already. What, you can expand your horizons there. I used to have a document with all these links. That computer crashed and I did not back it up. So let's see. So what you're showing here, Ruthie B, is that your brain creates anxiety when there is none. That has nothing to do with any man on the planet. We didn't do that. We didn't force you to create anxiety. That's just it seems to be something that you enjoy. So one of the things that high IQ people do is they often underestimate their own intelligence. That's something else that Dunning-Kruger's found. So I guess I can thank Ruthie B for jumping in here, and it looks like she may have taken a run for the road when I started producing articles. Well, hey, country boy, they may be drawn to serial killers if they suffer from hybristophilia, and that's a mental disorder. That if they suffer from hybristophilia, and hybristophilia is someone who is sexually aroused by someone who lies and cheats, like a married man, a criminal, a drug dealer, a robber, a thief, a rapist. Um, yeah, that's a hybristophiliac. Yeah, Myth Twist. She took off. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what she did. So she thought I was just talking trash. Yeah, that a Silent Lamont. Yeah, they just called the police, and it would be interesting to see women build their own Wonder Woman civilization. You just go off to an island and build from scratch. I mean, I'm waiting for the day that they take 1 million women with you. There's enough money with women, and they can invest in oil drilling and iron ore and copper and uh, grow their own food. They can do all of those things. I'd love to see that. I mean, they say they can do anything a man can do, but better. So that what greater opportunity? Now, if they think that's extreme, create an all-female company and compete in the open market. It's a competitive marketplace. The best person wins. I'm not sure why they haven't done that. They're begging men to give them positions in companies men have built. Men risked all the capital. Some men lost their families building industries. They lost their wife, left. Men died. They lost creating flying. Men lost their lives. There's so many things men have made taken risks to do. But as I showed that article about how women have more anxiety and depression, insomnia, women, because of that, women won't take the same risks that men take. And therein lies the problem. And I know someone will say, well, I know this woman. Women haven't created one single industry and commercialized it. Even the tampon was commercialized by a man, not a woman. And there have been women who have inherited money for a long time. So yeah, and so there are no consequences, Silent Lamont. That is a problem. To be able to just do anything. But and part of the problem is fathers, the way they raise their daughters, and they actually teach their daughters to be feminists and tell them they don't need men, which and I think one of the worst crimes is to tell women that they're smarter than men, they're more mature, men only want one thing, men think with their other head, like all these insane things. It's a no wonder that women will look down on men. So we're actually telling women to look down on men. And then the one of the big insults to men is, why buy the cow when you can get it for free? Well, sex takes two people, and she's getting as much out of it as you are. If in fact she's getting more, because the average length of a man's climax is 6 seconds, and for a woman it's 23 seconds. So she's getting more out of even sex. And women are literally using men for sex because she won't stay with a guy who won't have sex with her. Lots of guys stay in sexless relationships. Women leave. So men have been tricked into believing they're less valuable than women, and they're dumber. Yet they've created everything. And I had a woman recently on Instagram say, well, women are smarter because women tricked men into doing all the work, and women just kind of sit back and let men do everything. But can women really pull it off? They've run all kinds of studies, prison studies. Women don't collaborate well, especially under pressure. Women, there are female-only companies. When they try to scale it, it doesn't work. Women want high salaries. They're not profitable, and women talk about sex at an unreal rate inside of female-only companies. All the things they tell us not to do, they do it. They violate everything. I did a show on that. Maybe I put it in Patreon. I don't know. So I appreciate that Ruthie B came over and maybe someone came or to come over here and put me in check, or and show the men over here something, and it looks like she ran. She put on her running shoes and took off. Well, women will buy more stuff, and they will, yeah, they will pay outrageous prices for things. They're more consumers. It's easier to control people also because women have more fear. They will even teach their sons to have fear. I mean, you'll see guys who are raised by single mothers. You start to see a difference, and when you start having generations of that, you'll start noticing a big difference. And men misunderstanding what it means to be a man, and what they see in the movies, violence, all of that. They start to think that's what manhood is all about. Yeah, the top cooks, the top designers, all men. Yep, yep, yep. Your grandmother was good, Myth Twist. Good observation. Hey, yeah, right. Silent Lamont, yeah, and Country Boy. That's a good conversation, right? So what is being rewarded, being incentivized? So there is some validity as long as men keep going to strip clubs, women are being incentivized, and most are not responsible with their the capital they earn. And I had one of the women who was a stripper who talked about how she would just go spend 1,500 bucks, 13, whatever she said, 1,300 on a new outfit, hoping that she's going to make more money because of the new outfit. The logic behind it, and the next week she makes very little. So hey, that's what a woman said to me on um, Instagram, Country Boy, that that they tricked men into doing all the work. So then I asked her, I said, so if the world is screwed up, basically what you're saying, because she was saying women are really running things. They just trick men to do it and make men believe they're running things. I said, so if the world is screwed up, it's really women who have created this. And she went silent. Women don't want to have that conversation. They want to brag that we make men think they're leading, but really we're leading. And we say, well, when we look at the mess that's here, are you willing to take responsibility for that? And usually you hear nothing. It's quiet. I've had that conversation with several women. It's like you set up a trap. You let them brag. Yes, women are powerful. Yeah, we're the one making all the decisions. We're doing it all. We're the end. Right. So the world is screwed up. Yeah. So really women did this. And they start hiding. See, Myth Twist, that is the question where no one's talking about. Why are men being made weaker? It's like, are we being fattened up for a feast to be eaten alive? Are we being set up for a takeover? Like China said that they're noticing their boys are not as they don't really understand masculinity. So China is now on a nationwide initiative to start teaching boys what masculinity is. And here we are teaching that masculinity is toxic and wanting men out the house. Even Black Lives Matter, had in their website how they wanted the heterosexual male out of the home. So are we being set up to be taken over? And China coming from the East, they, I guess, come in through the west coast of the U.S. And if you go into the south where you have Mexico, El Chapo and the drug lords, man, they're making feminists disappear. I mean, if men are weak and we get hit by these aggressive drug lords from the south and China coming in, hitting the western shores, I mean, are women going to jump out and fight? Are they then going to say we don't need men? What? Sit so frantic. What is that, country boy? Sit so frantic. Right, Miss Twist. They're not having it. China's not accepting that. China's already ahead of us. We just don't want to admit it. You want to talk about pattern recognition? If you look at the pattern recognition in China and how they're moving forward in technology, um, I went to a meeting. The deputy director of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. It was a breakfast, and the deputy director was speaking, and someone he started talking about if the United States wanted to have a war with China, that the U.S. would have to borrow money to have a war with China, and guess who they'd have to borrow the money from? We would have to borrow money from China to have a war with China. That's where we are now. That's where we are. If we totally didn't like what China was doing and said, we declare war on you, yes, declare war. But can we borrow a $500 billion, please, so we can fight you? I mean, that it's not funny. Schizophrenic. Oh, I got it. Schizophrenic. Okay. Got it. Now I'm with you. Got it. Okay. Um, that's a good question. I don't know. There may be more mental health challenges going on. I was once listening to a guy say that the reason why so many women are overweight in the U.S. is because they've been molested and raped and they've had abuse. Well, I lived in Mexico for about 2 years, and I can promise you a lot of the same molestation and abuse happens right in Mexico, and those women don't become obese because of that. They don't become angry. Like, they don't hate sex. They don't despise men. And yet they're having the same problems. And it's right our next door neighbor from the United States. I lived there for 2 years. I lived in some other Latin American countries, and they have these problems, but you don't have that. I mean, women have this. Listen, the women still have that hypergamy. There's some things that are sort of universal but with women, and especially dealing with money and material things. Except their ability to enjoy sex is significantly more advanced than what I saw here in the U.S. And their ability to enjoy sex and be responsible for their own desire for sex. Yeah, well, hey, myth twist, the US couldn't fight them by themselves. They couldn't fight them at all unless they borrow money. They'd have to borrow money to fight them, even with India and Japan, and who knows who else would have to borrow from them. Wars cost money. You have to pay these defense contractors to build your weapons, and you have soldiers, and you have to pay agriculture for food. There's just way too much that goes into it. Uniforms, um, yeah, military bases. We'd have to borrow money. We don't have that. And unless we're going to get people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett to finance the war themselves and buy war bonds. I think they did that in World War II. They sold war bonds, so you could self-finance it with the people here. And it's so interesting because if we go back to there was an economic recession in 1897. It was really bad, and Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller Sr., and J.P. Morgan, and some others, but those were the three main guys who pulled the United States out of that recession, buying bonds. So those three wealthiest men in the country, maybe Henry Ford was involved, but those three men were able to do it. And you look in the 1930s, Rockefeller built Rockefeller Plaza. That was to create jobs in New York during the Depression. So possibly with the amount of money that some of these billionaires have, they could finance it between the banks and those top 100 billionaires. Call of Duty, huh? Nah, I mean, I was just saying, that it would set us up for that. What your original inquiry is, why would they want to weaken the family in the Western world? My grandfather was born in 1917, and he grew up in a house with his parents, his grandparents, and his great grandparents. I mean, that's a hell of a structure to grow up in. The amount of wisdom and knowledge that's passed on to the youth, and the examples and the support to the younger married couples. I mean, that's been obliterated. That whole family structure of, that unity, that community. And so we whittled down, getting rid of great grandparents and grandparents, and now getting rid of the parents. And if you read the New Republic, Plato's New Republic, he talks about how the state should raise children. The state should take the children. So maybe that's where we're ultimately headed. And if the state raises the children, they can raise them to do anything they want, to go out and fight wars, or be slaves and not know they're slaves, but they're working for the best interest of the state. Yeah, dropping nuclear bombs, I guess they could do that, as long as the elite have their getaway. Yeah, I actually didn't finish it, Miss Twist. I don't remember the Philosopher Kings, but I do remember him talking about having the state raise children. I remember that specifically, and wondered if that's, just some of the other things I read. I just wondered if is that the blueprint that's being used? But you know what? See, country boy, even that, like, why would anyone depopulate? Like, what would be the intention? We're more sophisticated with agriculture. We can grow more food per square foot. And if you think about what people want to make more money, well, if you depopulate, that means you're cutting off money. You're cutting off your hand. Like, why depopulate? What would be the end game of that? That just, I don't get it. You know, maybe I'm not smart enough to see the pattern. It, I don't know. A far-fetched, hypothetical, crazy, you know, you hear about these possible UFOs. Uh, is our planet being set up to be inhabited by a more intelligent race of people? And so we're being set up for that. Yeah, Myth Twist, interesting book. So I don't know. It's none of it makes sense. But here's the flip side of it all, right? The flip side can actually be a positive thing. So if you create one world government, you could technically end war. So if you had a benevolent dictator who served as sort of like the chairman of the board, and if you have, let's say, 192 countries, and each country has its president, and that's your board of directors, 192 board members, and you have a chairman who's overseeing all of those 192, one world government, that one benevolent dictator could put an end to war. I mean, that's on the positive side, right? So you could get rid of war, you could get rid of poverty, you could feed everyone, you could have every nation working in the best interest of every nation. You could technically do that. It'd be like mergers and acquisitions, like companies that buy, like General Electric. Who knows how many hundreds of companies they've bought over the decades, and they integrate them into GE's way. Yeah, I know, Myth Twist. See, yeah, I mean, I never heard of that game, Myth Twist. But see, that's, you know, you have one currency, we have one world, and see, what I wonder if guys like Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great, I wonder if that was their vision. Like they were really looking to unify under one flag, because a lot of people think Genghis Khan was just going out and just destroying people, but really what he was doing was responding to requests. People were saying, "Hey, look, we're being persecuted in our country for our religious practice," and Genghis Khan thought people should be able to practice any religion they wanted. So he didn't just go out and go to war. He actually had a meeting with his 90,000 soldiers and everyone in the village, and he asked, he said, "We're being asked to go to war. What do you all think? Why should we? Why should we not?" And 90,000 soldiers and all the members of the village, male and female, were part of this discussion. And if he didn't have alignment, he wouldn't do it. So he was actually going into other countries and killing off the oppressors. And then others, merchants would send him a letter and say, "Hey, these trade routes, we're just merchants, man. We're just traveling, and you know, goods and services we're delivering from one place to another. We're being murdered, robbed, killed." So he made the trade routes safe. So it was like he was unifying the world. So maybe there was a good intention that most people didn't solve. The first emperor of China did that. They had, I think, 19 different providences, and he unified them all under one. So if there was one world order and you unified 192 countries under one roof, one currency, everyone speaks English, and you can have your other second and third languages. But we're all now able to communicate. That was one of the things with what you call Native Americans here in the U.S. At one time, it was difficult for them to communicate with one another because so many nations had their own language. Well, they said the one thing about having the colonists come in is now they all speak English and they can all speak. perhaps the way that we believe to get there is to use violence. Like the first emperor of China, he was very, I mean, man, he used a heavy hand. But he unified the one language and, you know, one way of writing things. There is a good case for it. You just need a benevolent dictator. And that person really has to be trained to look out for what's in the best interest of all. And he can't be afraid to have consequences for people who violate a benevolent environment. Yeah, crypto. Yeah, country boy. Yeah, that's a challenge with cryptocurrency, right? Right. Yeah. So, and maybe it's better to have paper and coins so that doesn't happen. So, hell, if you go down to Panama, they use U.S. currency. They don't even have their own currency. All right, you know, there's I've had this conversation with someone before who was talking about the Illuminati, and all these horrible things, and they want to just control everyone. But it's like, well, if you really step back, and if there's a one world order, one currency, we can all speak to one another. You can end war because we're one nation. Like, we're all on planet Earth. Technically, we live on a rock that's floating in space. We're all here. Why not be one nation? All these borders are man-made. We're all, even though we're all human beings, we're not equal. Biologically, we're just not. There are some differences. But the point is, we all live on this planet. So do we destroy it? Do we make decisions that take in effect not only the other nations, we make decisions based on the future as well? Should we be looking 7 generations? So if we make this decision, how will it affect the next 7 generations? If it's not good, we shouldn't do it. Then we'd be rethinking things like feminism and taking fathers out of the home. I don't know if this is such a bad thing, right? We've all been taught that it's bad, but I don't know if it really is. I don't know. I mean, we're we're way off from you know, women and sex workers, but this is a good conversation to have. That's interesting. Interesting. I didn't know feminism leads into transhumanism. So here's what I'm willing to bet, and I'm yeah, I can actually prove this. So not too long ago, they found a civilization in Turkey. They call it Göbekli Tepe. They say it's about 13,000, minimum 13,000 years old. We're talking about a sophisticated city built, and they say it looks like it was intentionally buried. Roads, everything. They found no signs of warfare. And I've heard similar things about what people they call the Olmec, some people call Xi, Xi, the Xi people that were here in the Americas, Mexico, US, Latin America. No signs of warfare. So that means prostitution and warfare have not always been there. We've been taught that. So the question is, how do you educate people that war is not part of the culture? So this Gobekli Tempe, interesting. This is very interesting. Not sure what happened with my internet. So if there were civilizations that could actually live without war, how did you educate those people? That's a very different education. So I don't know if it needs to be through technology. I'm saying that here's where we are doing a disservice to our society. We have these two paradigms. One is we try to make humans more machine-like and machines more human-like. And then we try to make men more feminine and women more masculine. I mean, that's working against everything. We're in constant conflict with ourselves. So imagine if we taught people to be more human-like and allowed men to be more masculine and women to be more feminine. And there's a natural order. There's a pattern that we don't have to try and work against, because every time man goes against nature, we lose. So trying to force men to be feminine and women to be masculine is fighting against nature, and we lose every single time. And trying to make humans machine and machines human doesn't make sense. So perhaps we are just poorly educated. And everything we know could be a lie, and it all needs to be trashed. And humans need to be taught to be human. This thing that we call the human paradigm. What if the human paradigm started here and now we're way down here somewhere, and we think what we have is the human paradigm, except it's unrecognizable, the real human paradigm. You know that game they call, what they call telephone, where you put 10 people in a circle and you whisper one thing, and when it gets back to you, it's unlike what it started. And maybe that's what we've done with whatever it means to be a human being. Maybe we need to unlearn everything. And whatever those cultures, those societies had, where they had no wars, those are the things we need to be learning. Like whatever it means to be a being of a human being. Yeah, technically, you know what? This idea of a single consciousness, it really does exist. And man, that'll get me down the lane of a workshop. But let me just say it simply like this. Everyone has their own brain, but there's only one mind. So the brain and the mind is their distinctions between the two. You have a brain that sends and receives information, and you have a mind that sends and receives. And the mind is only one. The mind is like a rainstorm. It's not your private mind. So it's like we all have this umbilical cord connected to this one mind, and we're, regardless of the language in the country you live in, the language you speak, we're all sending and receiving information to this one mind. And that mind, the mind is like a rainstorm. So think of a rainstorm. When you go out into a rainstorm, personally, you get wet. Except that rainstorm is not your personal rainstorm, even though you personally get wet. So I'm saying, I can see mental network, collective consciousness, but I'm saying everything that everyone else is thinking, everyone else is thinking. Even if you live in China and you've never heard the English language. I lived in the jungle with Mayan Indians, no electricity or running water in Belize, and what I saw was the same human paradigm there. So it's like even though they were in the jungle, they were still connected to that one mind. And I went into the jungle of Costa Rica. I've been to lots of places. I've been to Greenland and Iceland, and I found the human paradigm everywhere. Now that's heavy, country boy. A DNA hard drive. They can download your consciousness onto a cloud device when you die. Yeah, that's that. There was a movie back in the '90s called Lawnmower Man. It's in that. I think they made a sequel to it called Was it Man in the Machine? I don't know. But look up Lawnmower Man, and you'll see there was a sequel to that. And that's what Lawnmower Man was really about. Um, a person being in the entire computer net, like the entire internet, everywhere. Yeah, I think there's some possibility. They've done some things with technology so long ago that we don't even hear about it. It's so out of this world. I'm not even going to talk about it here. So, but this is we're in interesting territory. We're going into deep depths of profoundness and looking at social constructs and building a better society. Ghost in a Shell, Ghost in a Machine. I think it was Ghost in a Machine. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I did see the sequel. This is a good conversation. Definitely one that I have with others and myself. Things that I think about, and lots of things don't make sense. What's the end game? Even for feminism, what's the end game? The women who go into sex work, what's the end game? Are they thinking about, how long can I do this? It's no different when the guys who stand on a street corner dealing drugs. What's your end game? And maybe many of those guys expect they're going to die before they turn 21 or 25, so they don't care. They're willing to just, sort of, they say balls to the wall and lose it all. And when they die because that's what they expect. So women who go into the sex work, are they expecting to die at a young age, or what do they think is going to happen when they when they age out of the sex industry? I mean, they're just going to buy a franchise and start a business. Look at the professional athletes who go broke after 2 or 3 years of retirement. So lots of people are not thinking about the end game. And the most common way for a woman to achieve wealth is through marriage. That's still there. A job is not doing it for most women. Yeah, the end game is we're seeing the results, right? Lots of women with cats. Lots of women turn into lesbianism. Poverty, right? Lots of poverty. Single motherhood. And then that raises children, that creates children who are emotionally traumatized, which then that creates all kinds of problems in society. So these are things that we need to talk about more. It was good to see a woman jump in here. It was interesting how she veered off and then took off. But these are the kinds of conversations that men and women need to really sit down and talk about. And I'm okay with women being completely equal to men and going off and building their own civilization. I'd love to see that. That'd probably be the hottest reality TV program. And I don't know how the stripper culture would work for them in the sex industry. I guess tourism would be the sex industry. But I my theory is eventually pirates would attack them and take over and turn the whole island into basically a whore island, and they would all be in the sex industry, with some of them attempting to come back to the U.S. or wherever they came from, Great Britain, Australia, because they ultimately would be looking for men to protect them. But I would love to see women pack up, leave, and show that they can actually do it. They've been on training wheels in what they call a patriarchy. So let's take off the training wheels and go ride. And yes, they may fall, but let's see if they can build the bridges and skyscrapers and extract all the natural resources or or take compost and create cars and all that. You know, that means they're going to have to create their own satellites, everything. Yeah, tourism would, man, they would. The cat food stock would shoot up. Yeah, myth twist. That's the real question. What's the end game, right? So, our country boy, you're doing fine in here, man. You're doing fine. Yeah, you really are. So yes, the ladies go off and create their own island. Yeah, I'm buying what is it, Friskies and Purina, all the cat food stock, man. I don't know who makes it, Procter and Gamble, whoever makes them. Those would be the stocks to buy. Well, also condoms. You want to invest in Trojan because they'd have prostitution would be legal, and you'd have tons of condoms that would be needed because you'd have men coming in from all over the place for lots of parties. It would be a party island, I assume, and that's how they would generate revenue. But anyway, hey guys, I thought I was gonna cut this off 2 hours ago. I was attempting to sign out. Ruthie B made it kind of interesting, and we continued on. So, hey, Myth Twist, I know you're across the pond. Always love you jumping into the conversation. Appreciate it. Country boy, love having you here. It was a really good dialogue, guys. Great conversation. I hope you appreciated the videos that I showed of the stripper women talking about what's really happening out there and how they feel empowered as feminists to be strippers. That's the culture where we are embracing, the horror culture. And as I said, not sure the end game. So guys, I appreciate your support. Thanks a lot. And I'll be back next Friday with more YouTube and chill so we can talk about some more intimacy of conversations and become provocative and, as always, politically incorrect. So guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey, and guys, just for the record, there's a movie, Automata, if you want to talk about Automata. That's a movie where the computers were amazing, and they're not computers, robots, and they had robots that were prostitutes. So check that out if you haven't. You should be able to find it on YouTube. I don't know if Netflix does that, but YouTube is where I saw it. So have a great weekend, guys. Talk to you soon. Take care. Goodbye.